Welcome back to Dream Scrolls, where we dive deep into gaming's greatest stories. Today, we're embarking on an epic journey into the cosmic horror of Yharnam to explore one of Bloodborne's most profound mysteries, the true purpose of the Great Ones. Over the next couple of hours, we'll uncover the hidden motivations behind these eldritch beings, their tragic cycles of loss and yearning, and how humanity becomes both their salvation and their downfall. In the shadowed streets of Yharnam, beneath cobblestones stained with old blood and Gothic spires that pierce the crimson sky, there exists a truth so profound and terrifying that to comprehend it fully would drive most minds to madness. This truth concerns beings of such immense power and alien intelligence that they exist beyond our understanding of reality itself. These are the Great Ones, and their purpose in the world of Bloodborne is far more complex, tragic, and horrifying than most hunters ever realize. To understand the Great One's true purpose, we must first understand what they are. The Great Ones are beings that transcend the physical limitations of our world. According to the Choir's research, they operate on what are called transcendental planes of thought. According to the Choir's research, they operate on what are called transcendental planes of thought. Unlike mortal beings trapped within the confines of linear time and three-dimensional space, the Great Ones appear to perceive reality in ways that human consciousness simply cannot process. Yet for all their cosmic power, the Great Ones are not the distant, uncaring deities one might expect from beings of such magnitude. They are described as sympathetic in spirit, though this sympathy manifests in ways that often bring more harm than help to humanity. This sympathetic nature is perhaps the most crucial aspect of understanding their true purpose, for it reveals that the Great Ones are not malevolent entities seeking to destroy humanity for sport. Rather, they are beings driven by profound loss and an all-consuming desire to fill the void left by their greatest tragedy. The fundamental truth about the Great Ones is revealed through the recurring text found on multiple third umbilical cords. Every Great One loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate. This simple statement contains within it the key to understanding everything that happens in Bloodborne: the scourge of beasts, the corruption of the healing church, the nightmare realms that trap souls in eternal torment, the very existence of hunters themselves. All of it stems from this cosmic tragedy. But what does it mean for a Great One to lose its child? And why do they turn to humanity as surrogates? The answers to these questions reveal a purpose so alien, yet so fundamentally understandable that it bridges the gap between cosmic horror and tragic human drama. The Great Ones exist in a state of perpetual mourning. Their immense power and transcendent nature comes with a terrible cost: the inability to successfully reproduce. The more advanced and powerful a being becomes, the fewer offspring it can produce, and the Great Ones represent the ultimate expression of this cosmic law. They have transcended to such heights of existence that they can no longer create viable children of their own kind. This is not merely a biological limitation, but appears to be a fundamental law of their existence. The Great Ones have moved so far beyond mortal concerns that they seem to exist partially outside the normal flow of time and causality. In gaining their cosmic perspective and transcendent existence, they may have lost something essentially mortal and essential for creating new life: the ability to be fully present in a single moment, a single plane of existence, long enough for new life to take root and flourish. The children of Great Ones, when they do manifest, are invariably stillborn or lost shortly after their creation. We see this pattern repeated throughout Bloodborne. Mergo, the child of Oedon and Queen Yharnam, exists only as a crying voice in the nightmare, formless, and forever trapped in an infantile state. The Orphan of Kos emerges from its mother's corpse, only to exist as a manifestation of rage and despair. Even the attempts by humans to create artificial Great Ones result in failure. The one reborn collapses under its own weight, and the living failures are exactly what their name suggests. This cosmic infertility drives the Great Ones to seek what they cannot create themselves: surrogate children from among the mortal races. But their attempts to find and nurture these surrogates are complicated by their alien nature. The Great Ones cannot simply adopt human children in any conventional sense. Their very presence warps reality around them, and their attempts at contact with mortals often result in madness, transformation, or death. The Great One's transcendent existence creates a fundamental paradox. They possess the power to reshape reality itself, yet they cannot perform the simple act of creating new life. They can perceive the past, present, and future simultaneously, yet they cannot experience the immediate, moment-to-moment joy that comes with raising a child. They have achieved a form of immortality, yet they are cursed with an eternal loneliness that no amount of cosmic power can alleviate. This paradox drives everything they do: their interference in human affairs, their manipulation of bloodlines, their creation of nightmare realms. All of these actions stem from their desperate attempt to overcome the sterility that comes with cosmic consciousness. They are beings of immense sympathy who cause immense suffering, not out of cruelty, but out of need. The phrase, "every great one loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate," is not merely descriptive, it is prescriptive. It describes a cosmic law as fundamental and inescapable as gravity or entropy. To be a great one is to exist in a state of perpetual loss and perpetual yearning. This is not a phase they pass through or a challenge they can overcome. It is the defining characteristic of their existence. Understanding this law requires us to examine what it means for a great one to lose a child. This loss appears to be not simply a matter of death or separation in the conventional sense. Based on what we understand about the Great One's nature, they may exist across multiple dimensions and timelines. From their perspective, past, present, and future might not be sequential but concurrent. This could mean that a Great One does not lose its child at a specific moment in time, rather. The child might be simultaneously conceived, born, lost, and mourned across all moments at once. This temporal compression creates a form of suffering that mortal minds can barely comprehend. Imagine experiencing the joy of your child's conception, the anticipation of their birth, the horror of their loss, and the eternal grief of their absence, all at the same exact instant, forever. This is the reality of Great One parenthood. They do not remember losing their children. They are losing their children in every moment of their eternal existence. The yearning that follows this loss is equally profound and eternal. The Great Ones do not simply want surrogate children. They need them with a desperation that transcends mortal understanding. This yearning drives them to reshape entire civilizations, corrupt bloodlines spanning generations, and create nightmare dimensions where potential surrogates can be cultivated and tested. Mergo serves as perhaps the most poignant example of this cosmic loss. The child of Oedon, the formless Great One, and Queen Yharnam of the ancient Thumerian civilization, Mergo exists in a state of perpetual infancy. The child's cries echo throughout the nightmare of Mensis, a sound that seems to have persisted for untold ages. These cries appear to be not simply the distress of an abandoned infant. They could represent the crystallized sorrow of cosmic loss made manifest as sound. What makes Mergo's situation particularly tragic is that the child seems to be simultaneously dead and alive, present and absent, real and illusory. From a mortal perspective, we might say Mergo was stillborn, that the child died before or shortly after birth. But if the Great Ones truly possess a different relationship with time, Mergo could exist in a superposition of states. The child was born, is being born, and will be born, and in all these states, the child is lost. The wet nurse that guards Mergo represents what appears to be the Great One's attempt to provide care for a child that cannot truly be cared for. This artificial caretaker, with its multiple arms and faceless visage, embodies the inadequacy of cosmic solutions to problems that require intimate, immediate, mortal care. The wet nurse can protect Mergo from external threats, but it seems unable to provide the warmth, love, and presence that a developing child needs. The school of Mensis' ritual to contact Mergo reveals humanity's role in this cosmic tragedy. The scholars, led by Michaelash, sought to commune with the infant Great One, believing that such contact would grant them cosmic insight and transcendence. What they failed to understand is that Mergo's eternal crying likely represents an unmet need that no amount of ritual magic or cosmic communion can fulfill. The stillbirth of their brains. The fate that befell the Mensis scholars demonstrates what happens when mortals attempt to engage with cosmic loss without understanding its true nature. The Orphan of Kos, presents a different facet of the fundamental law of loss and yearning. Unlike Mergo, who exists as pure sound and consciousness, the orphan possesses a physical form. It emerges from the corpse of its mother, Kos, who washed up on the shore of the fishing hamlet. This birth from death symbolism is crucial to understanding the Great One's reproductive tragedy. The orphan's violent, aggressive behavior reflects the rage and confusion of a being born into abandonment and loss. It attacks the hunter with desperate fury, wielding its own placenta as a weapon, a grotesque image that transforms the symbol of nurturing and connection into an instrument of violence. This transformation encapsulates the tragedy of Great One offspring. They take the tools and symbols of care and relationship, and, in their isolation and confusion, weaponize them. The orphan's ultimate fate is equally tragic. Upon defeat, it does not truly die, but rather dissolves into the cosmic ocean, returning to the undifferentiated consciousness from which it emerged. This suggests that Great One children may not be able to exist as truly independent beings. They appear to be temporary manifestations of cosmic consciousness that inevitably return to the source, their brief existence serving only to intensify the Great One's eternal yearning. Oedon represents perhaps the most sophisticated response to the fundamental law of loss and yearning. As a formless Great One who exists only as voice, and, according to some interpretations, within blood itself, Oedon has developed unique strategies for reproduction that overcome some of the limitations faced by other cosmic beings. Rather than attempting to create children directly, Oedon appears to impregnate mortal women through their blood, creating hybrid offspring that carry both mortal and cosmic elements. We see evidence of Oedon's reproductive strategy throughout Yharnam. Ariana, whose special blood marks her as particularly suitable for Oedon's attention, becomes pregnant after the blood moon rises. The child she births is a pale, tentacled creature that represents what appears to be Oedon's attempt to create a being that can exist in both mortal and cosmic realms. However, like all Great One offspring, Ariana's child is fragile and incomplete, requiring constant connection to its mother to survive. The false Iosefka undergoes a similar transformation, becoming pregnant with what appears to be another of Oedon's attempted surrogates. Her clinical detachment from the process, combined with her prior transformation into kin, suggests that beings who have already undergone partial cosmic transformation may be more suitable vessels for Great One reproduction. But Oedon's greatest success, and perhaps his greatest tragedy, appears to be Mergo. Born from Queen Yharnam herself, a being already touched by cosmic forces through her Thumerian heritage, Mergo represents what may be the closest thing to a viable Great One child. Yet even this most successful attempt results in a being trapped in eternal infancy, forever crying out for needs that cannot be met. The yearning that drives the Great Ones is not diminished by these repeated failures. If anything, each failed attempt intensifies their desperate need for viable offspring. This creates a feedback loop of cosmic tragedy. The Great Ones lose their children, they yearn for surrogates, their attempts to create surrogates fail, they lose these surrogate children, and the yearning intensifies. This cycle has persisted for eons, spanning civilizations and worlds beyond Yharnam. The ancient Thumerians, whose ruins lie beneath the city, represent an earlier iteration of this cycle. Their civilization was built on blood rituals and cosmic communion, suggesting that the Great Ones have been pursuing surrogate children for millennia. The Chalice dungeons, with their endless labyrinths and what appears to be trapped consciousness, serve as monuments to these earlier attempts. The fundamental law of loss and yearning creates a moral complexity that defines Bloodborne's horror. The Great Ones are not evil in any conventional sense. They do not appear to seek to destroy or dominate humanity out of malice. Their interference in human affairs seems to stem from a deeply sympathetic impulse, the desire to fill the void left by their lost children. Yet this sympathetic impulse, filtered through alien consciousness and cosmic power, produces horrific results. The beast scourge that consumes Yharnam is not the result of malevolent cosmic entities seeking to punish humanity. It appears to be the collateral damage of desperate parents trying to solve an unsolvable problem. The nightmare realms are not torture chambers created by cruel gods, but rather seem to function as nurseries designed by beings who have forgotten what genuine nurturing requires. The corruption of the healing church is not a deliberate corruption, but the natural result of mortal institutions attempting to serve cosmic purposes they cannot fully comprehend. This reframing of Bloodborne's horror, from malevolent gods to sympathetic but alien parents, makes the tragedy even more profound. There is no villain to defeat, no evil to overcome. There is only loss, yearning, and the terrible consequences that result when cosmic beings attempt to solve mortal problems with cosmic solutions. Understanding how the Great Ones attempt to create surrogate children reveals the true scope of their influence on the world of Bloodborne. The process is neither simple nor straightforward, requiring a complex interplay of cosmic forces, human ambition, and tragedy that spans generations. The most direct method, employed by the Great Ones, is the creation of nightmare realms, alternate planes of existence that they can shape according to their will. These nightmares serve multiple purposes in their quest for surrogate children. First, they provide spaces where the Great Ones can exist more fully than in the physical world, allowing them greater control over their environment and the beings within it. Second, they serve as testing grounds where potential surrogates can be evaluated and shaped. Finally, they act as nurseries where surrogate children can be protected and nurtured according to the Great One's alien understanding of care. The Hunter's Dream, created by the Moon Presence, represents perhaps the most successful example of this strategy. Through yearn, the Moon Presence establishes a cycle whereby hunters are bound to the dream, living and dying repeatedly in service to their cosmic patron. Each hunter who enters the dream becomes, in a sense, a potential surrogate child. They are protected from true death, guided by a parental figure in yearn, and given purpose through their endless hunt. But the Moon Presence's ultimate goal is not simply to collect hunters indefinitely. It seeks a specific type of surrogate, one who can transcend humanity, while retaining enough of their mortal nature to fill the void left by its lost child. This is why the Moon Presence orchestrates the complex events of the game, manipulating circumstances to create a hunter capable of defeating other Great Ones and ultimately confronting the Moon Presence itself. The process requires the hunter to consume 3/3 umbilical cords, each representing a failed attempt by a Great One to create or nurture a child. These cords grant the hunter eyes on the inside, the cosmic perspective necessary to perceive and interact with Great Ones on their own level. In consuming these symbols of cosmic loss, the hunter takes on the accumulated grief and yearning of multiple Great Ones, transforming them into something that can bridge the gap between mortal and cosmic existence. When such a transformed hunter defeats the Moon Presence, they undergo a final metamorphosis, becoming an infant Great One themselves. The doll, who serves as a surrogate maternal figure throughout the hunter's journey, cradles this newborn cosmic being, finally giving the Moon Presence the surrogate child it has sought for so long. The hunter's mortal memories and experiences become the foundation for a new Great One's consciousness, creating a being that combines cosmic power with mortal understanding. This process reveals the true tragedy of the Great Ones' existence. They can only create surrogate children by destroying what makes those children appealing to them in the first place. The hunter's humanity, their struggles, their growth, their very mortality. These are what make them suitable as surrogate children. But the transformation into a Great One necessarily strips away much of what made them human, leaving the Great One with a child who is fundamentally changed from what they originally sought to preserve. The Nightmare Realms serve as more than just testing grounds. They are elaborate educational systems designed to prepare candidates for eventual transformation. Each realm focuses on different aspects of development necessary for successful surrogate creation. The Nightmare Frontier, ruled by Amygdala, emphasizes endurance and adaptation. The poisonous environment forces hunters to manage resources carefully and develop strategies for long-term survival. The labyrinthine layout tests spatial reasoning and problem-solving abilities. The presence of hostile silver beasts, possibly descendants of the people of Lauren, demonstrates the fate of previous civilizations that underwent cosmic transformation, serving as both warning and precedent. The Hunter's Nightmare, accessed through the DLC content, focuses on moral development and the confrontation with past sins. This realm serves both as punishment for hunters who have committed grave transgressions and as a proving ground for those seeking redemption or transcendence. The emphasis on ethical behavior suggests that the Great Ones value moral sophistication in their surrogate children, though their understanding of morality may differ significantly from human conceptions. The nightmare of Mensis represents the most complex and dangerous testing ground. Created through the School of Mensis's ritual to contact Mergo, this nightmare combines multiple layers of cosmic influence and purpose. It serves simultaneously as a prison for Mergo, a testing ground for advanced hunters, and a demonstration of the dangers inherent in forced cosmic ascension. The various chalice dungeons accessible through the dream represent yet another form of testing ground, focusing on adaptability and the ability to overcome unpredictable challenges. These procedurally generated labyrinths force hunters to develop flexible strategies and mental resilience, preparing them for the unpredictable nature of cosmic existence. The distribution of these testing grounds across multiple dimensions and realities reveals the scope of the Great One's surrogate creation infrastructure. This is not a hastily assembled system, but a sophisticated network of educational and evaluative spaces developed over eons of trial and error. The presence of yearn and the doll within the hunter's dream reveals another crucial aspect of the surrogate creation mechanism, the use of intermediary figures to provide guidance and care that the Great Ones themselves cannot offer directly. Yearn serves as a surrogate father figure, providing instruction, encouragement, and ultimately a crucial test of the hunter's development. His tragic bondage to the dream captivity he accepted in order to protect others from the same fate demonstrates both the Great One's need for mortal intermediaries and the terrible cost such service exacts. The doll represents the maternal aspect of this cosmic nursery system. Her gentle demeanor, caring nature, and ability to channel blood echoes into strength reflect the nurturing role she plays in hunter development. Created by yearn in the image of his beloved student Maria, and then animated by the moon presence in response to yearn's prayer, the doll embodies the complex relationship between mortal longing, cosmic power, and artificial care. The doll's artificial nature is both advantage and limitation in the surrogate creation process. As a created being, she can provide consistent, patient care without the emotional complications that might arise from natural maternal instincts. She will never tire, never lose patience, never prioritize her own needs over those of her charges. But this same artificial nature means she cannot provide genuine emotional connection or the unpredictable spontaneity that characterizes real parental relationships. The blood ecosystem represents another crucial mechanism in surrogate creation. Blood echoes are not simply game currency. They are crystallized memories and experiences that can be absorbed and integrated into a hunter's consciousness. Each enemy defeated yields not just abstract points but actual fragments of memory and awareness that shape the hunter's development. This system reveals how the Great Ones view consciousness itself, as something fluid and transferable, capable of being harvested, stored, and redistributed. The hunter's ability to rapidly integrate these diverse experiences and memories suggests a special compatibility with cosmic consciousness, a natural aptitude for the kind of consciousness manipulation that defines Great One existence. The insight mechanic functions as a measurement of the hunter's progress toward cosmic awareness. As insight increases, the hunter becomes capable of perceiving things previously hidden, the amygdala clinging to buildings throughout Yharnam, the cosmic children hidden in various locations, the true nature of certain enemies and encounters. This graduated revelation system ensures that hunters are not overwhelmed by cosmic truth all at once, but develop their awareness incrementally. However, high insight also brings dangers. Frenzy becomes more threatening, certain enemies become more powerful, and the line between reality and nightmare begins to blur. This represents the psychological cost of cosmic awareness, the strain on mortal consciousness of perceiving realities it was never designed to comprehend. The third umbilical cords themselves represent perhaps the most potent mechanism in the surrogate creation process. Each cord is described as originating from a Great One, containing within it both the physical remnants of failed reproduction and the spiritual essence of cosmic loss and yearning. The cords found throughout the game each tell a story of failed parenthood. One comes from Mergo, the eternally crying infant of Oedon and Queen Yharnam, representing the tragedy of formless reproduction and incomplete existence. Another comes from the abandoned workshop, likely connected to the moon presence's previous attempts at creating surrogate children through earlier hunter generations. A third can be obtained from Isefka's clinic, connected to Oedon's impregnation of the false Isefka, and representing the failure of forced cosmic pregnancy. The fourth comes from Ariana's child, another of Oedon's failed reproductive attempts, demonstrating the inability of hybrid offspring to survive independently. By consuming 3 of these cords, the hunter literally ingests the accumulated grief, yearning, and cosmic consciousness of multiple Great Ones. This consumption is not merely symbolic, it represents a fundamental transformation of consciousness that grants the hunter the ability to perceive and resist cosmic manipulation. The requirement of 3 cords specifically suggests a numerological significance. 3 represents completion in many mystical traditions: past, present, and future, birth, life, and death, body, mind, and spirit. The hunter must integrate 3 distinct instances of cosmic loss to achieve the consciousness necessary for transformation. This mechanism of consuming loss and grief to achieve transcendence reveals a profound truth about the Great One's understanding of consciousness and development. They recognize that growth cannot occur without the integration of suffering, that transcendence requires the willingness to bear the weight of cosmic sorrow. The hunter who consumes the cords does not simply gain power. They take on the emotional and spiritual burden of cosmic parenthood itself. Among all the Great Ones, Oedon represents perhaps the most sophisticated and ultimately successful approach to surrogate creation. As a formless Great One who exists only as voice and blood, Oedon has developed unique strategies for reproduction and surrogate development that overcome many of the limitations faced by other cosmic beings. Oedon's formless nature allows for a level of subtlety and pervasive influence that other Great Ones cannot match. Unlike the moon presence, which must work through elaborate dream realms and testing grounds, or amygdala, which must rely on nightmare transportation and environmental challenges, Oedon can infiltrate the very blood and consciousness of potential surrogates without their awareness. The genius of Oedon's approach lies in its integration with humanity's existing systems and desires. Rather than creating obviously supernatural testing grounds or forcing dramatic transformations, Oedon works through the old blood itself, using humanity's desire for healing and transcendence as a vector for surrogate creation. This strategy allows Oedon to reach far more potential candidates than other Great Ones while maintaining plausible deniability about the true nature of the transformation process. Oedon's influence extends throughout Yharnam's history, present in every blood ministration, every healing ritual, every attempt to use the old blood for human benefit. The Healing Church's entire operation, from its founding by Lawrence to its eventual corruption, serves Oedon's reproductive strategy. The Church's emphasis on blood purity, special bloodlines, and the selection of blood saints all reflect Oedon's criteria for suitable surrogate mothers. The Carol runes associated with Oedon provide crucial insight into this formless strategy. The formless Oedon rune increases maximum quicksilver bullet capacity, suggesting that Oedon views thought and intention as forms of ammunition tools for shaping reality according to conscious will. The Oedon Writhe rune restores quicksilver bullets upon performing visceral attacks, linking violent penetration with spiritual regeneration in a manner consistent with Oedon's reproductive approach. These runes reveal that Oedon understands reproduction not as a purely biological process, but as an act of consciousness and will. The formless Great One can impregnate mortal women not through physical intercourse, but through the transmission of consciousness via blood. This represents a fundamentally different understanding of reproduction that treats the creation of new life as an act of creative will rather than biological necessity. The selection of Ariana as a primary target for Oedon's reproductive attempts reveals the sophistication of this strategy. Ariana's connection to the Cainhurst bloodline marks her as genetically suitable for cosmic pregnancy. Her profession as a woman of pleasure provides Oedon with multiple opportunities for blood contact through her interactions with various clients. This dual-approach genetic suitability, combined with behavioral opportunity, demonstrates Oedon's understanding of both the biological and social factors necessary for successful surrogate creation. Ariana's pregnancy progresses with supernatural speed, moving from conception to birth within what appears to be hours or days rather than months. This accelerated gestation suggests that cosmic reproduction operates according to different temporal rules than mortal biology. The child she births is a pale, tentacled creature that represents Oedon's attempt to create a being capable of existing in both mortal and cosmic realms. However, like all Great One offspring, Ariana's child is fragile and incomplete. It cannot survive separation from its mother, requiring constant physical connection to maintain its existence. This dependency reveals a fundamental flaw in Oedon's reproductive strategy. The hybrid children created through blood impregnation cannot achieve true independence. They remain trapped in a state of perpetual infancy, drawing life force from their mortal mothers, while never developing into fully realized beings. The false Iosefka's pregnancy represents another iteration of Oedon's strategy, this time with a subject who has already undergone partial transformation into kin. Her clinical detachment from the pregnancy process, combined with her enhanced cosmic awareness, suggests that beings who have already developed some level of cosmic consciousness may be more suitable vessels for Great One reproduction. The child born from the false Iosefka displays characteristics similar to Ariana's offspring, pale, tentacled, and utterly dependent on its mother. However, the false Iosefka's own transformation into a cosmic being creates additional complications. The child appears to drain her life force more rapidly than normal, suggesting that the cosmic transformation of the mother may actually make successful reproduction more difficult rather than easier. Oedon's greatest success, and perhaps his greatest tragedy, is Mergo, born from Queen Yharnam herself, a being already touched by cosmic forces through her Thumerian heritage. Mergo represents the closest thing to a viable Great One child that Oedon has achieved. Queen Yharnam's status as a Thumerian ruler, already experienced with otherworldly entities and blood rituals, made her an ideal candidate for Oedon's approach. The resulting child, while still incomplete, represents a significant advancement over Oedon's other reproductive attempts. Mergo's formless nature, inherited from Oedon, provides certain advantages that other cosmic children lack. Rather than being trapped in fragile physical form like Ariana's child or the Orphan of Kos, Mergo exists as pure consciousness and voice, allowing for greater flexibility and potentially longer survival. However, even Mergo's existence demonstrates the limitations of Oedon's approach. Despite being the most successful cosmic child, Mergo remains trapped in an infantile state, requiring protection from Mergo's wet nurse and unable to develop beyond its current form. The constant crying that characterizes Mergo's existence suggests a being trapped in perpetual distress, unable to mature or find comfort despite its cosmic nature. The school of Mensis's ritual to contact Mergo reveals another aspect of Oedon's reproductive strategy. By allowing human scholars to make contact with his child, Oedon creates additional opportunities for surrogate development. Edrizaluda was a lord my ears to use. We claw first. Where is his child? He claw the sovest. Is yours. A feeful sparrows. You do. Iluvors. For felly hills. You lesk. A very voiced. The scholars who participate in the ritual become potential surrogate parents or siblings for Mergo, providing the cosmic child with additional sources of nurturing and development. However, the ritual's catastrophic failure demonstrates the dangers inherent in Oedon's approach. The formless nature that provides Oedon with flexibility and subtlety also makes his influence difficult to control or limit. Once contact is established, Oedon's presence can quickly overwhelm mortal minds, resulting in the stillbirth of their brains, a fate that befell the Mensis scholars when they attempted to commune with Mergo. This stillbirth metaphor is particularly apt. The scholars' minds did not simply die or go mad in a conventional sense. Rather, their consciousness underwent a form of cosmic pregnancy that their human brains could not support. The result was a catastrophic failure analogous to stillbirth life that began to form but could not sustain itself, resulting in death and corruption. Michaelash, The host of the nightmare represents a partial success in Oedon's surrogate creation strategy. Unlike his fellow scholars whose brains were stillborn, Michaelash achieved a form of immortality and cosmic awareness, though at the cost of being trapped in the nightmare of Mensis. His fragmented dialogue during the boss encounter reveals a mind that has achieved some level of cosmic consciousness, while retaining enough human awareness to communicate, albeit imperfectly. Michaelash's famous lines, "Ah, Kos, or some say Cosm, do you hear our prayers?" reveal his continued yearning for cosmic communion and validation. He has achieved a form of transcendence, but it is incomplete and unsatisfying. He exists in a state of perpetual seeking, forever calling out to great ones who may or may not hear him, forever searching for the perfect insight that remains just beyond his grasp. Oedon's influence on the hunter character throughout the game represents perhaps his most sophisticated surrogate creation attempt. Rather than directly impregnating or transforming the hunter, Oedon works through the 3 umbilical cords, each of which carries his essence and the accumulated grief of failed cosmic reproduction. By consuming these cords, the hunter takes on aspects of Oedon's consciousness and reproductive drive without undergoing the physical pregnancy that characterizes his other attempts. This spiritual adoption process may represent the optimal approach to Great One reproduction. Rather than attempting to force biological compatibility between cosmic and mortal elements, the process allows for the gradual transformation of consciousness while preserving the essential experiences and perspectives that make mortal beings valuable as surrogate children. The hunter's eventual transformation into an infant Great One, if they have consumed sufficient umbilical cords and defeat the moon presence, represents the successful culmination of Oedon's formless strategy. Unlike his other reproductive attempts, which sought to create children through direct biological processes, the transformation of the hunter represents a form of spiritual adoption. The hunter becomes a surrogate child, not through birth, but through the gradual accumulation of cosmic consciousness and the integration of cosmic grief and yearning. Oedon's connection to the very concept of blood reveals another layer of his reproductive strategy. Blood in the world of Bloodborne represents more than mere biological fluid. It carries memory, consciousness, and spiritual essence. By existing within blood, Oedon can influence not just individual reproduction, but the entire flow of consciousness and memory throughout human society. This pervasive influence explains many of the seemingly random events throughout Bloodborne. The beast scourge, the corruption of the healing church, the madness that affects various characters, all of these can be understood as side effects of Oedon's presence within the blood supply of Yharnam. The Great One's quest for surrogate children creates ripple effects that touch every aspect of human society. The fact that Oedon is never directly encountered in the game reinforces the effectiveness of his formless strategy. While other Great Ones must manifest in ways that allow them to be perceived and potentially defeated, Oedon remains invisible and untouchable, operating through systems and structures that humanity has built for itself. This makes him perhaps the most successful of all Great Ones in terms of achieving pervasive influence and creating opportunities for surrogate development. However, Oedon's success also highlights the fundamental tragedy of the Great Ones' situation. Even with his sophisticated approach, even with his formless flexibility and pervasive influence, Oedon cannot create a truly viable surrogate child. Mergo remains eternally crying, Ariana's child is fragile and dependent, and the Falseo Sefka's offspring exists in a state of precarious survival. The formless strategy allows for more attempts and broader reach, but it does not solve the underlying problem, that cosmic consciousness and mortal existence may be fundamentally incompatible. The moon presence represents a different approach to surrogate creation than Oedon, one that emphasizes careful cultivation and testing, rather than widespread biological manipulation. The hunter's dream, created and maintained by this enigmatic Great One, serves as perhaps the most sophisticated nursery system in the entire cosmic ecology. Unlike Oedon, who works invisibly through blood and consciousness, the moon presence creates a tangible space where potential surrogate children can be observed, guided, and gradually transformed. The dream exists outside normal temporal flow, allowing the moon presence to conduct extended evaluations of hunter candidates, without the risk of losing them to aging or natural death. The very structure of the hunter's dream reflects its purpose as a cosmic nursery. The workshop provides tools and weapons, but these serve a dual purpose. They are both practical implements for hunting and toys designed to teach important lessons. The practice of upgrading weapons and learning new combat techniques mirrors the way children develop skills through play and experimentation. Each weapon modification represents not just increased power, but increased understanding of how to shape and transform reality. Yearn's role in the dream extends far beyond that of a simple guide or instructor. He serves as a surrogate father figure, providing guidance, instruction, and ultimately a crucial test of the hunter's development. Yearn's paternal relationship with the hunters is evident in his protective instincts and his willingness to sacrifice himself to spare them from the dream's eternal cycle. The tragedy of Yearn's situation reveals the moon presence's understanding of the importance of parental figures in child development, while also demonstrating the limitations of cosmic approaches to caregiving. Yearn provides genuine care and instruction, but he does so as a prisoner, bound to the dream against his will. His love for the hunters is real, but it exists within a system of cosmic exploitation that uses his compassion as a tool for surrogate creation. Yearn's dialogue reveals the depth of his awareness about the dream's true purpose. His repeated requests that the hunter leave, his warnings about the terrible truth that awaits those who remain, his final offer to free the hunter by taking their life, all of these demonstrate his recognition that the moon presence's nursery is also a trap. He understands that every hunter who enters the dream becomes a potential sacrifice to the moon presence's need for surrogate children. The final confrontation with Yearn, should the hunter refuse his mercy, represents one of the most emotionally complex moments in the game. Yearn fights not out of malice, but out of desperation, a desperate desire to protect the hunter from the fate he himself has endured. His tears during the battle, his mournful demeanor, his final words acknowledging the hunter's strength, all of these reveal a being who has been forced to play a terrible role in a cosmic drama he does not fully support. The plain doll represents the maternal aspect of this cosmic nursery. Her gentle demeanor, caring nature, and ability to channel blood echoes into strength reflect the nurturing role she plays in hunter development. The doll's origins as Yearn's creation, fashioned in the image of his beloved student Maria, and then animated by the moon presence in response to Yearn's prayer, reveal the complex relationship between mortal longing, cosmic power, and artificial care. The doll's repeated question, "Are you cold?" followed by her offer to hold the hunter, represents perhaps the most profound expression of artificial care in gaming. The question acknowledges the hunter's potential need for comfort, while the offer provides genuine physical and emotional warmth. Yet the interaction is also tinged with sadness, as both doll and hunter are aware of her artificial nature. She can provide comfort, but she knows she is not real in the way the hunter is real. The doll's self-awareness about her artificial nature sets her apart from other created beings in Bloodborne. Unlike mindless automatons or corrupted kin, the doll maintains clear understanding of what she is while developing genuine emotions and relationships within the parameters of her created existence. This self-awareness allows her to provide a unique form of care that acknowledges its own limitations while remaining genuinely nurturing. Her dialogue reveals a being who thinks deeply about the nature of reality, consciousness, and care. She ponders whether souls exist in beings like herself, whether her feelings are real, despite her artificial origins, and what it means to serve as a caretaker in a dream that may itself be a form of prison. These philosophical musings elevate the doll beyond simple NPC status into a genuine character grappling with existential questions. The endless cycle of death and rebirth within the dream serves multiple purposes in the moon presence's surrogate creation process. First, it allows for extensive testing and evaluation of each hunter's capabilities and character. Hunters who prove inadequate can be recycled through death without permanent loss, while those who show promise can be guided toward greater challenges. Second, the cycle gradually strips away the hunter's attachments to mortal life. Each death makes the hunter less human and more suited to cosmic existence. The process is gradual and subtle, ensuring that the hunter retains enough humanity to remain a suitable surrogate while slowly preparing them for eventual transformation. The psychological impact of dying repeatedly and returning creates a form of consciousness that is neither fully mortal nor fully cosmic, exactly the state the moon presence seeks. Third, the cycle creates a form of dependency on the dream itself. Hunters come to rely on the safety of the workshop, the guidance of yearn, the comfort of the doll, and the knowledge that death is not permanent. This dependency mirrors the relationship between parent and child, creating emotional bonds that make the hunter more suitable as a surrogate. The various locations accessible from the hunter's dream serve as testing grounds for different aspects of surrogate development. Central Yharnam tests basic survival skills and adaptability. The Cathedral Ward evaluates the hunter's ability to navigate religious and political corruption. The Forbidden Woods and Byrgenwerth assess the hunter's response to cosmic truth and forbidden knowledge. Each area provides different challenges designed to evaluate specific qualities the moon presence values in surrogate children. The progressive unlocking of areas mirrors the way children are gradually granted increased freedom and responsibility as they mature. Early in their journey, hunters are restricted to central Yharnam, much as young children are restricted to safe, controlled environments. As they demonstrate competence and growth, new areas open, providing increasingly complex challenges and moral dilemmas. The insight system functions as a measurement of the hunter's readiness for cosmic transformation. Low insight hunters perceive Yharnam as a gothic nightmare of beasts and madness terrible, but still comprehensible within mortal frameworks. As insight increases, the cosmic horror beneath the surface becomes visible. The amygdalae clinging to buildings, the cosmic children hidden throughout the city, the true nature of certain enemies and encounters. All of these are revealed only to hunters who have developed sufficient cosmic awareness. However, high insight also brings vulnerabilities. Frenzy becomes more dangerous, certain enemies gain new attacks, and the line between reality and nightmare begins to blur. This represents the psychological cost of cosmic awareness, the strain on mortal consciousness of perceiving realities it was never designed to comprehend. The moon presence understands that successful surrogate creation requires finding the precise balance point where a hunter possesses sufficient cosmic awareness to be useful while retaining enough mortal perspective to be valuable. The presence of other hunters within the dream, both as allies and adversaries, serves important developmental purposes. Cooperation with friendly hunters like Eileen the Crow teaches the importance of cosmic harmony and mutual support. Conflicts with hostile hunters test the candidate's ability to make difficult decisions and overcome challenges through force when necessary. The murder of other hunters, particularly in the case of the Bloody Crow of Canehurst or the conflicts that can arise with Jura, forces the player hunter to confront questions about the value of life and the acceptable costs of pursuing one's goals. The dream's responsive nature, changing and evolving based on the hunter's actions and development, reflects the moon presence's sophisticated understanding of individual development. The appearance of new areas, items, and challenges corresponds to the hunter's growing capabilities and cosmic awareness, ensuring that the surrogate creation process remains appropriately challenging throughout. The burning of the hunter's workshop, triggered by certain actions and progression, represents a crucial moment in the moon presence's cultivation strategy. The destruction of this familiar space forces hunters to confront the impermanence of even their safest refuges. The old workshop becomes accessible, revealing earlier iterations of the dream, and suggesting that the current generation of hunters is not the first to undergo this cultivation process. The discovery of the abandoned workshop reveals disturbing truths about the moon presence's long-term strategies. The presence of another doll, inanimate and forgotten, suggests that the caring maternal figure in the current dream is itself a replaceable tool. The third umbilical cord found here connects to previous failed attempts at surrogate creation, demonstrating that the moon presence has been refining its process over multiple generations. The ritual blood found throughout Yharnam and in the dream creates another layer of connection between the moon presence and its potential surrogate children. This substance, described as writhing deep within and used to beckon the moon presence itself, suggests a form of cosmic DNA or genetic material. The hunters who use this blood to beckon the moon presence are literally incorporating cosmic essence into their own bodies, preparing themselves for eventual transformation. The three endings available to hunters represent different outcomes of the moon presence's cultivation process, each revealing different aspects of the Great One's goals and methods. The Yharnam Sunrise ending, where the hunter accepts yearn's offer of mercy and wakes in the waking world with no memory of the dream, represents a rejection of cosmic transformation. The hunter returns to mortal existence, their potential as a surrogate child deemed insufficient, or their will to resist too strong. From the moon presence's perspective, this is a failure, a candidate who could not be successfully cultivated. The honoring wishes ending, where the hunter refuses yearn's mercy but lacks the cosmic awareness granted by consuming umbilical cords, results in the hunter replacing yearn as the dream's caretaker. This represents a partial success for the moon presence. The hunter has demonstrated sufficient strength and determination to resist yearn's attempt to free them, but they lack the cosmic awareness necessary to resist the moon presence itself. They become the next surrogate father figure, bound to cultivate future generations of hunters in service to the Great One's eternal quest. The childhood's beginning ending, where the hunter has consumed 3/3 umbilical cords and gained sufficient cosmic awareness to resist the moon presence's binding, represents the cultivation process's ultimate success. The hunter defeats the moon presence in battle, demonstrating both the strength and the cosmic awareness necessary to transcend their mortal limitations. The transformation into an infant Great One, cradled gently by the doll, finally gives the moon presence the surrogate child it has sought. Yet this success is deeply ambiguous. The newly transformed Great One possesses the hunter's memories and experiences, but exists in an infantile state that requires care and nurturing. The doll's role shifts from caretaker of mortal hunters to nursemaid of a cosmic infant, a being that combines mortal perspective with cosmic power, but may ultimately be subject to the same limitations and tragedies that afflict all Great Ones. The moon presence's approach to surrogate creation, as embodied in the hunter's dream, reveals a sophisticated understanding of child development and the importance of gradual transformation. Unlike Oedon's strategy of rapid biological manipulation, the moon presence invests enormous resources into creating proper environments, providing appropriate guidance, and ensuring that candidates undergo step-by-step preparation for cosmic existence. However, this sophistication also highlights the fundamental tragedy of the Great One's situation. Even with all this careful planning, even with the resources and time invested in each hunter, the success rate remains incredibly low. Most hunters fail the tests, accept yearn's mercy, or become trapped as the next generation's caretaker. Only a tiny fraction achieve the transformation into infant Great Ones, and even these successes produce beings whose viability and future development remain uncertain. The moon presence's silent observation throughout the hunter's journey creates an atmosphere of constant surveillance and evaluation. Unlike other Great Ones who manifest more directly, the moon presence remains invisible until the final moments, hanging in the sky as a pale moon, watching everything. This surveillance reflects a parental instinct, the desire to observe and protect one's child, but filtered through cosmic consciousness, it becomes something more unsettling. The revelation that the moon presence has been present throughout the hunter's entire journey, silently guiding events and eliminating obstacles, such as Mergo, whose death triggers the end of the dream's primary purpose, recontextualizes every moment of the hunter's experience. What seemed like personal achievement and individual growth was actually a carefully orchestrated performance for a cosmic audience of one. This raises profound questions about agency and autonomy within the cultivation process. To what extent are the hunter's choices truly their own? How much of their development results from internal growth versus external manipulation? The game provides no clear answers, leaving players to grapple with the uncomfortable possibility that even their most significant decisions may have been anticipated and facilitated by the very being they ultimately challenge. Ebrietas, the daughter of the cosmos, represents a unique case among the Great Ones, a cosmic being who has been left behind by her kin, abandoned in the physical world rather than retreating to nightmare dimensions or dissolving into formless consciousness. Her discovery by the scholars of Byrgenwerth marks a crucial turning point in humanity's relationship with the Great Ones and their quest for surrogate children. The circumstances of Ebrietas' abandonment remain mysterious, but the implications are profound. For a species defined by their inability to create viable offspring and their desperate yearning for surrogate children, the act of leaving behind one of their own suggests either profound tragedy or calculated strategy. Was Ebrietas cast out for some failure or inadequacy? Or was she deliberately left as a contact point between cosmic and mortal realms? The latter explanation seems more consistent with the Great Ones' sympathetic nature. Ebrietas may represent an attempt by other Great Ones to establish a permanent presence in the physical world, a bridge figure who could interact with humanity more directly than beings trapped in nightmare realms or existing as pure consciousness. Her physical form, while clearly alien and disturbing to human perception, allows for a level of concrete interaction impossible with entities like Oedon or the moon presence. Master Willem and his scholars at Byrgenwerth discovered Ebrietas in the depths of the Thumerian labyrinths beneath Yharnam. This discovery represented the first opportunity for humanity to study a Great One directly, to observe cosmic consciousness in a tangible form, and to potentially learn the secrets of transcendence without the intermediary of blood or nightmare. Willem's famous declaration, "We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open. Fear the old blood," reflects his understanding of the dangers inherent in the blood-based approach to cosmic communion. His rival, Lawrence, would ignore these warnings, founding the Healing Church and establishing blood ministration as the primary method of connecting with cosmic power. But Willem sought a different path, the granting of eyes on the inside through direct cosmic revelation rather than biological transformation. Ebrietas became the centerpiece of this alternative approach. The scholars who remained at Byrgenwerth after Lawrence's departure continued their research, attempting to gain cosmic insight through communion with this accessible Great One. The results were both promising and horrific. Some scholars, like Master Willem himself, achieved a form of cosmic awareness while retaining their human consciousness. Willem's transformation is subtle. He sits by the lake, largely unresponsive, his gaze fixed on the water where Rom conceals cosmic truth. He has gained cosmic perspective, but at the cost of human vitality and engagement with the physical world. He exists in a liminal state, neither fully human nor fully transcendent. His consciousness expanded beyond his body's ability to act upon his awareness. Other scholars underwent more dramatic transformations, becoming kin beings that have gained cosmic insight at the cost of their humanity. The kin encountered in the upper cathedral ward, where Ebrietas resides, display characteristics that suggest partial success in bridging mortal and cosmic consciousness. Their enlarged heads indicate enhanced mental capacity. Their ethereal movements suggest partial transcendence of physical limitations, but their mindless hostility reveals the loss of human emotional sophistication and moral reasoning. The relationship that developed between Ebrietas and the Healing Church, which eventually claimed Byrgenwerth's research and relocated Ebrietas to the upper cathedral ward, reveals much about how Great Ones attempt to create surrogate children through institutional channels. Ebrietas did not simply share her knowledge out of benevolence or scientific curiosity. Her cooperation with humanity represents a desperate attempt to create the surrogate children she, like all Great Ones, yearns for. By sharing cosmic truths and empowering scholars with otherworldly knowledge, Ebrietas was attempting to transform them into beings more suitable to serve as her surrogate offspring. The scholars who studied her did not merely learn about cosmic consciousness. They were being gradually transformed into potential surrogate children through the knowledge itself. This process reveals a crucial insight about cosmic consciousness. It is inherently transformative. One cannot simply observe or study cosmic truth without being changed by it. The knowledge itself acts as a vector for transformation, carrying within it the essence of the cosmic perspective that will inevitably alter human consciousness. The choir, the highest echelon of the Healing Church's research division, took this relationship with Ebrietas to its logical extreme. They developed methods for granting eyes on the inside, the cosmic awareness necessary for perceiving reality as the Great Ones do. The auger of Ebrietas, a tool that summons tentacles from another dimension, represents one product of this research. But the most significant achievement was the systematic creation of kin, beings who had successfully integrated enough cosmic consciousness to transcend human limitations while retaining enough structure to function as potential surrogate children. However, this achievement revealed the fundamental flaw in using Ebrietas as a pathway to surrogate creation. The kin produced by the choir's experiments are powerful and aware, but they are also emotionally vacant and developmentally stunted. They have gained cosmic perspective but lost human warmth, creativity, and moral sophistication. They cannot serve as genuine surrogate children because the transformation process strips away the very qualities that make human beings appealing as surrogates in the first place. Rom, the vacuous spider, serves as the most prominent example of this failed strategy. Once a scholar at Byrgenwerth, Rom was granted eyes by the Great Ones, likely through Ebrietas' intervention, and transformed into a cosmic guardian. In her new form, Rom serves an important function. She maintains the barrier that prevents ordinary humans from perceiving the true horror of their situation, hiding the lesser amygdalae and other cosmic entities that lurk in plain sight throughout Yharnam. But Rom's transformation represents both a success and a failure for Ebrietas' purposes. While Rom has gained cosmic awareness and power, she has lost her human consciousness and ability to grow or develop. She exists in a state of eternal vigilance, protecting humanity from cosmic truth, but no longer capable of the dynamic growth and change that would make her a suitable surrogate child. The description of Rom as vacuous is particularly telling. The term suggests emptiness, a lack of substance or intelligence. Yet Rom clearly possesses immense power and serves a crucial cosmic function. The vacuousness refers not to her capabilities but to her inner life. She has become a hollow vessel, serving cosmic purposes, but lacking the rich internal experience that characterizes conscious beings. This hollowness is precisely what Ebrietas did not want to create. The Great Ones seek surrogate children who can provide them with connection to mortal experience, beings who combine cosmic awareness with human warmth and perspective. Rom represents the opposite, a being who has abandoned human experience entirely in favor of cosmic function. The tragedy of Ebrietas is compounded by her physical condition. She is described as weeping. Her boss fight takes place in a chamber that suggests isolation and abandonment, and her attacks, while powerful, have a desperate quality to them. Here is a Great One who has been left behind by her cosmic kin, who has attempted to create surrogate children through humanity, and who has failed repeatedly to achieve viable offspring. The scholars who became kin cannot provide genuine companionship or fulfill her yearning for surrogate children. Rom, her greatest success, has become so transformed as to be essentially unrecognizable as the scholar she once was. The healing church uses Ebrietas for power and knowledge, but does not understand or care about her emotional needs. She exists in profound isolation, surrounded by the failures of her attempts at surrogate creation. The items associated with Ebrietas reveal the extent of her influence on human development. The choir's garb and tools all reference her directly, suggesting that an entire generation of humanity's most intelligent and ambitious individuals dedicated their lives to serving her purposes. The Great Is Chalice, which opens pathways to even deeper cosmic truths, suggests that Ebrietas has been guiding humanity toward ever greater cosmic awareness, hoping that eventually they would develop the perspective necessary to serve as true surrogate children. Yet this guidance has produced only tragedy. The choir members who ventured too deep into cosmic awareness became kin or went mad. The living failures created through attempts to artificially grant cosmic perspective through medical procedures represent exactly what their name suggests. The celestial emissaries, another product of the choir's experiments, exist in a childlike state of permanent developmental arrest. Ebrietas' weeping, then, can be understood as grief over these repeated failures. Each attempt to create surrogate children produces only hollowed-out husks or mindless servants. The cosmic knowledge she shares, rather than elevating humanity to a state where they can serve as viable surrogates, instead strips away their humanity and leaves them less capable of genuine relationship than they were before. The player's encounter with Ebrietas is optional, accessed only by those who thoroughly explore the Upper Cathedral ward. This optional nature is significant. It suggests that Ebrietas' story is not central to the Moon Presence's cultivation of the player-hunter. Instead, it represents a parallel track, another great one pursuing a different strategy for surrogate creation with similarly tragic results. The boss fight itself reveals Ebrietas' desperate state. Her attacks are powerful but chaotic, lacking the calculated precision of other boss encounters. She flails and charges with a fury that suggests emotional distress rather than tactical thinking. When reduced to low health, she calls down cosmic energy in a display of devastating power. But this power cannot create what she truly needs: genuine connection and surrogate children who can fill the void in her existence. Defeating Ebrietas yields the greatest chalice, opening pathways to deeper explorations of Thumerian ruins and cosmic truth. This reward suggests that Ebrietas, even in death, continues to guide humanity toward greater cosmic awareness. Her final gift is access to even deeper mysteries, perhaps hoping that the hunter who defeated her might succeed where all previous candidates failed. The Daughter of the Cosmos represents a tragic figure, a great one who has attempted every strategy available to her for creating surrogate children, who has been abandoned by her cosmic kin, who has poured her knowledge and power into transforming humanity, only to produce failure after failure. Her weeping echoes through the Upper Cathedral ward, a sound of profound loneliness and perpetual mourning for children that can never truly exist. The story of Kos, or some say Cosm, represents perhaps the most heartbreaking example of Great One reproduction and the consequences of human interference in cosmic affairs. The fishing hamlet, accessible through the DLC content, reveals a chapter of cosmic tragedy that predates the events of the main game and helps explain the creation of the hunter's nightmare itself. Kos was a great one, whose corpse washed up on the shore of a small fishing village, long before the events that consume Yharnam. The circumstances of her death remain unclear, whether she died in the ocean and washed ashore, or whether she came to shore to die, or whether she was already dead when cosmic forces brought her body to this particular location. What is clear is that she was pregnant, and that the villagers who discovered her body worshipped her as a divine being. The fishing hamlet's residents built their entire culture and identity around the worship of Kos. They wore shells that grew parasitically from their bodies, physical manifestations of their cosmic connection. They spoke to Kos in prayer, believing she could hear them even in death. They regarded her corpse as a sacred site, a point of communion with cosmic consciousness that elevated their small village to cosmic significance. This worship reveals an important truth about human Great One relationships: humanity's tendency to interpret cosmic entities through religious frameworks. The villagers did not see Kos as an alien being whose consciousness and purposes were fundamentally incompatible with human understanding. Instead, they projected onto her the characteristics of a benevolent deity, a being who could hear prayers, grant blessings, and provide meaning to their lives. This misunderstanding would prove catastrophic. Master Willem and his scholars, learning of the fishing hamlet and its cosmic corpse, organized an expedition to study Kos and extract whatever secrets could be gleaned from a physical Great One body. Gehrman and Maria, both later to play crucial roles in the hunter's dream, participated in this expedition. What followed was a massacre. The exact details of what happened in the fishing hamlet are deliberately obscured by the game, filtered through nightmare memories and centuries of guilt and revision. But the broad strokes are clear. The scholars slaughtered the villagers, desecrated Kos's corpse, and extracted the unborn child from her womb. The motivations for this violence are never fully explained. Whether it was deemed necessary to access Kos's secrets, whether it was intended to cover up the expedition's true purposes, or whether something about the cosmic influence had already begun driving the scholars toward bestial brutality. The orphan that emerged from Kos's corpse represents cosmic birth at its most tragic. This is a being born from death, a child who never knew its mother alive, whose first experience of existence was emerging from a desecrated corpse, while its mother's worshippers were being murdered around it. The trauma of this birth shapes everything about the orphan's existence and behavior. The boss fight against the Orphan of Kos is widely regarded as one of the most difficult and emotionally impactful encounters in the game. The Orphan fights with desperate, primal fury, wielding its own placenta as a weapon, a grotesque image that transforms the ultimate symbol of nurturing and connection into an instrument of violence. This transformation encapsulates the tragedy of Great One children. They take the tools and symbols meant for care and relationship, and in their isolation and trauma, weaponize them. The Orphan's behavior during the fight reveals a being in extreme distress. Its movements are erratic and aggressive, but there's an underlying quality of confusion and fear. It does not fight like a confident predator, but like a frightened, traumatized child lashing out at perceived threats. Its cries and screams throughout the battle sound less like monster roars and more like infant wails amplified to cosmic scale. In the second phase of the fight, the Orphan's aggression intensifies, and it begins calling down lightning from the sky. This escalation suggests increasing desperation, a being that realizes it cannot defeat the hunter through physical means alone and must resort to ever more extreme displays of power. Yet even this cosmic lightning cannot protect it from the hunter's persistence. Upon defeat, the Orphan does not die in a conventional sense. Instead, its form dissolves and returns to the cosmic ocean, merging back into the undifferentiated consciousness from which it briefly emerged. This dissolution represents both death and liberation. The child finally escapes the trauma of its birth and existence by returning to the state before individual consciousness. Kos's voice, speaking after the Orphan's defeat, provides the only direct communication from this Great One to the player. The exact words vary based on player interpretation. The dialogue is somewhat unclear, but the message is one of release and mercy. Kos, even in death, even having witnessed the desecration of her body and the killing of her child, does not curse the hunter, but rather lifts the curse from humanity. This act reveals the sympathetic nature of the Great Ones even in their most tragic moments. The hunter's nightmare itself exists because of the fishing hamlet massacre. Those who participated in the slaughter, the scholars, the hunters, even those who merely bore witness, have been trapped in an eternal nightmare where they relive their crimes and their beastly transformation. Maria, guilt-stricken by her participation, takes her own life, only to be trapped in the nightmare as a guardian preventing access to the hamlet. This nightmare serves as a form of cosmic justice, but it is not straightforward punishment. The Great One's sympathetic nature means they do not simply torture the guilty out of revenge. Rather, the hunter's nightmare functions as a space where the guilty can confront their sins and potentially achieve redemption or understanding. It is both prison and therapeutic space, both punishment and opportunity for growth. Lady Maria's boss fight provides crucial context for understanding the emotional impact of the fishing hamlet massacre on its human participants. Maria, once Gehrman's student and possibly his romantic interest, was renowned for her skill and grace as a hunter. But the events at the hamlet broke something fundamental in her. She discarded her weapons, particularly the rakuyo that embodied her elegant fighting style, throwing them down the well in the hamlet as a symbolic rejection of her hunter identity. Her dialogue during the boss fight reveals a being tormented by guilt and desperate to prevent others from accessing the truth of what happened. A corpse should be left well alone, she insists, fighting to prevent the player hunter from reaching Kos's body and confronting the Orphan. Her motivations are complex. She seeks to protect Kos's remains from further desecration, to prevent the player from adding to the cycle of violence, and perhaps to spare them the guilt that has consumed her own existence. The fishing hamlet massacre and its consequences reveal several crucial truths about the Great Ones and their relationship with humanity. First, it demonstrates that Great Ones can die, that they are not truly immortal in the conventional sense. Kos's death, whether from natural causes or violence, proves that cosmic beings are subject to mortality even if the mechanics of their death differ from human dying. Second, it shows that Great One reproduction faces threats, not just from cosmic infertility, but from active interference by humanity. The scholars who cut the Orphan from Kos's womb were not merely studying cosmic beings, they were actively disrupting the reproductive process, possibly destroying one of the few viable, Great One children ever to reach late-stage development. Third, it reveals that the Great One's sympathetic nature extends even to forgiveness of terrible crimes. Kos's lifting of the curse suggests that despite the desecration of her body and the killing of her child, she does not hate humanity. Her response is not eternal vengeance, but rather mercy, the release of those trapped in the nightmare, the lifting of generational guilt. This forgiveness is perhaps even more tragic than vengeance would be, as it highlights the profound disconnect between cosmic consciousness and the human impulse toward retribution. The parasitic slugs that inhabit the fishing hamlet villagers' bodies provide another layer of meaning to the Kos tragedy. These creatures, which grew from within the villagers after extended exposure to Kos's presence, represent the physical manifestation of cosmic influence on human biology. They are not purely harmful. The villagers appear to have lived with them peacefully, but they are undeniably alien, transforming human bodies into something other than human. This transformation suggests that even passive exposure to Great Ones, even worship without direct intervention, gradually changes humanity in fundamental ways. The villagers did not seek to become surrogate children, did not undergo blood ministration or nightmare trials, yet simply living in proximity to Kos's corpse transformed them biologically and perhaps psychologically. The items found in the fishing hamlet tell stories of lives lived in cosmic shadow. The fishermen's hats and simple tools speak to an existence that was once ordinary, now made extraordinary, and ultimately tragic by cosmic intervention. The prayers carved into walls and spoken in whispers reveal a people trying to make sense of forces beyond their comprehension, creating meaning through religious frameworks that could not possibly capture the alien nature of what they worshipped. Kos represents a Great One who came closest to successful reproduction. Her child had developed to the point of viability, might have been born successfully had circumstances been different. The tragedy is not just that she lost this child, but that the loss came through violence and desecration, rather than the cosmic infertility that plagues other Great Ones. This was a preventable tragedy, a loss caused by humanity's interference rather than cosmic law. The orphans return to the cosmic ocean, after defeat might be interpreted as finally achieving the birth that was denied to it in life. In death, it is released from the trauma of its violent emergence and the isolation of its brief existence. It returns to a state of unity with cosmic consciousness, spared the eternal loneliness that characterizes Great One existence. Yet this interpretation, while comforting, raises troubling questions about the nature of Great One existence. If dissolution into cosmic consciousness represents release and peace, then individual existence represents a form of suffering. The Great One's quest for surrogate children would then be a quest to share this suffering, to create new individual consciousnesses that will inevitably experience the loneliness and loss that defines cosmic existence. Kos's story, the orphan's tragedy, and the fishing hamlet massacre together represent the darkest consequences of the intersection between human ambition and cosmic reproduction. However, between human ambition, between human repression, and furious, and spray, humanity's desire to understand and exploit cosmic power led to the destruction of a community, the desecration of a Great One's body, and the traumatic birth of a child doomed to brief, violent existence. And yet, even after all this horror, Kos responds with mercy rather than vengeance, demonstrating the sympathetic nature of the Great Ones even in their darkest moments. The phenomenon of the blood moon represents one of the most crucial aspects of the Great One's true purpose, serving as a catalyst for their most direct attempts at creating surrogate children through biological means. When the red moon hangs low in the sky, the barriers between the mortal world and the cosmic realms weaken, allowing the Great Ones to exert their influence more directly than ever before. The lore note found in Byrgenwerth provides the key to understanding this phenomenon. When the red moon hangs low, the line between man and beast is blurred, and when the Great Ones descend, a womb will be blessed with child. This blessing is not the benevolent gift it might first appear to be, but rather represents the Great One's most desperate and direct attempt to create the surrogate children they so desperately desire. The appearance of the blood moon is triggered by specific cosmic alignments and ritual actions. In the events of Bloodborne, Rom's death serves as the catalyst that allows the blood moon to manifest. Rom's role as the guardian of human ignorance means that her destruction removes the final barrier, preventing humanity from perceiving the full horror of their situation. With this barrier gone, the Great Ones can manifest more directly in the mortal world. The blood moon's influence extends far beyond mere visibility of cosmic horrors. Its light carries with it the essence of the Great Ones themselves, particularly Oedon, whose formless nature allows him to exist within light and sound as easily as within blood and flesh. When the blood moon rises, Oedon's presence saturates the very air of Yharnam, seeking out suitable vessels for his reproductive attempts. The selection of vessels for cosmic pregnancy is not random. The Great Ones demonstrate a clear preference for women who already possess some connection to cosmic forces or whose blood contains special properties. Ariana's status as a descendant of the Cainhurst bloodline marks her as particularly suitable. The Vile Bloods have long been associated with forbidden blood practices and cosmic knowledge, making them biologically and spiritually predisposed to cosmic influence. Ariana's experience of cosmic pregnancy reveals the horror of being chosen as a surrogate vessel without consent or understanding. Before the blood moon, she is a woman of pleasure working in the cathedral ward, offering her special blood to those who visit her. This blood, which provides more healing than standard blood vials, marks her as unusual even before the cosmic intervention begins. After the blood moon rises and Rom's protection is lifted, Ariana becomes withdrawn and fearful. She speaks of feeling unwell, of changes she cannot explain. The pregnancy progresses with supernatural speed, moving from conception to birth within what appears to be hours or days rather than months. This accelerated gestation suggests that cosmic reproduction operates according to different temporal rules than mortal biology, or perhaps that the blood moon creates a temporal bubble where time moves differently for those undergoing cosmic transformation. The child Ariana births is a pale, tentacled creature that barely resembles anything human. Its form suggests an incomplete fusion of mortal and cosmic elements, human enough to require a mother's care, cosmic enough to possess tentacles and an alien appearance. The creature cannot survive separation from Ariana, requiring constant physical connection to maintain its existence. This dependency reveals a fundamental flaw in direct cosmic pregnancy. The offspring created through blood moon impregnation cannot achieve true independence. The psychological trauma Ariana experiences following the birth is profound. She becomes even more withdrawn, speaking only briefly and with evident distress about what has happened to her. Her dialogue suggests she understands, on some level, that her child is not human, that what has occurred is fundamentally unnatural. Yet she also displays maternal protective instincts, keeping the child close and becoming hostile if the hunter threatens it. This complex emotional response, simultaneous horror at what has been done to her, and protective love for the resulting child encapsulates the tragedy of cosmic pregnancy. The women chosen as vessels are not simply incubators for cosmic offspring. They are mothers who must somehow reconcile their human capacity for love with the alien nature of the children they have borne. The false Iosefka's pregnancy reveals another aspect of the blood moon's influence and Oedon's reproductive strategy. Unlike Ariana, who was chosen for her special bloodline, the false Iosefka had already undergone transformation into kin before becoming pregnant. This suggests that beings who have already achieved partial cosmic transformation may be more suitable vessels for Great One offspring, that the integration of cosmic consciousness makes the body more compatible with cosmic pregnancy. The false Iosefka's clinical detachment from her pregnancy stands in stark contrast to Ariana's emotional distress. She speaks of the child growing within her with a kind of scientific curiosity, noting the changes in her body without apparent fear or revulsion. This emotional disconnect suggests that her transformation into kin has altered not just her physical form, but her psychological relationship to her own body and to concepts like motherhood and reproduction. The child born from the false Iosefka displays characteristics similar to Ariana's offspring, pale, tentacled, and dependent. However, defeating the false Iosefka before she gives birth yields a different reward. A third umbilical cord, one of the items necessary for the hunter's ultimate transformation. This suggests that the cosmic pregnancy can be interrupted, that the developing child can be harvested for its cosmic essence even before birth. This harvesting mechanic raises disturbing questions about the nature of cosmic pregnancy and the Great One's reproductive strategy. Are these pregnancies intended to produce viable offspring, or are they experiments in combining mortal and cosmic biology? Is the goal to create living children or to generate cosmic essence that can be extracted and used for other purposes? The blood moon also triggers transformations in other NPCs throughout Yharnam. Adela the Nun, if rescued and brought to the safe haven, displays increasing obsession with the hunter and jealousy toward Ariana. This obsession culminates in Adela murdering Ariana. If the hunter has been accepting blood from both women, suggesting that the blood moon's influence extends beyond pregnancy to affect emotional states and psychological stability. Adela's jealousy can be interpreted through multiple lenses. On a mundane level, it represents romantic obsession and the violent impulses that can emerge from feeling rejected or replaced. But on a cosmic level, it might represent competition for the role of surrogate mother, a struggle between two women who have been marked by the Great Ones for reproductive purposes. Adela's act of murder could be an unconscious attempt to eliminate a rival for cosmic attention. The blood moon's effect on the general population of Yharnam is equally dramatic. The appearance of the red moon corresponds with an intensification of the beast scourge. Citizens who had been managing their transformation or resisting the beast plague suddenly lose control, completing their metamorphosis into full beasts. This suggests that the blood moon's influence is not limited to reproduction, but extends to all forms of cosmic transformation. The amygdalae that become visible after Rom's death had been present all along, clinging to buildings throughout Yharnam, watching and waiting. The blood moon does not bring them to Yharnam, it merely makes them visible to those whose insight has been forcibly increased by the moon's light. This revelation transforms the player's understanding of the entire game. Every moment spent in Yharnam before Rom's death was spent under the observation of cosmic beings, surrounded by entities that could have intervened at any moment. The lesser amygdalae's role in the blood moon's effects remains ambiguous. They do not directly participate in the cosmic pregnancies, but their newly visible presence creates an atmosphere of constant surveillance and cosmic attention. They serve as witnesses to the Great One's reproductive attempts, observers of humanity's transformation, and perhaps evaluators determining which individuals might prove suitable as surrogate children. The Mensis ritual that summons Mergo and maintains contact with the infant Great One represents another form of blood moon technology. The ritual does not cause the blood moon directly, but it operates according to similar principles. The thinning of barriers between mortal and cosmic realms, the direct manifestation of cosmic consciousness in physical space, and the attempt to create or maintain surrogate children through sustained cosmic contact. The stillbirth of the Mensis scholars' brains represents what happens when the blood moon's influence is channeled through ritual rather than biological pregnancy. The scholars attempted to conceive cosmic consciousness directly in their minds, to become pregnant with cosmic truth and give birth to transcendent awareness. The result was catastrophic. Their brains could not support the cosmic consciousness attempting to manifest through them, resulting in a form of mental stillbirth that left their bodies alive but their minds destroyed. Queen Yharnam's role in the blood moon's symbolism provides crucial context for understanding cosmic pregnancy. As the mother of Mergo, impregnated by Oedon in an earlier age, Queen Yharnam represents the most successful cosmic pregnancy yet achieved. Her continued existence as a spectral presence throughout Yharnam suggests that bearing a Great One's child creates a permanent connection between mother and offspring that transcends death itself. Queen Yharnam appears at various points throughout the player's journey, always near locations of cosmic significance. She is seen in the tomb of Oedon, she appears in the nightmare of Mensis, and she can be encountered in the Chalice dungeons. Her presence at these locations suggests she is eternally bound to follow her child, to be present wherever Mergo's influence is strongest. Her appearance pregnant, dressed in pale robes, moving with supernatural grace embodies both the beauty and horror of cosmic motherhood. She is simultaneously a figure of tragedy, a mother eternally separated from her child, and Power, a being whose pregnancy has granted her a form of immortality and cosmic significance. Her bloody clothes suggest the violence of cosmic birth, while her gentle movements and sorrowful expression reveal the emotional cost of bearing a Great One's child. The blood moon's red color itself carries symbolic weight. Red is associated with blood, violence, birth, and transformation. The moon's transformation from pale white to deep red suggests a fundamental change in the nature of cosmic influence, from distant and subtle to immediate and overwhelming. The red moon represents the Great One's impatience, their willingness to abandon subtle cultivation in favor of direct intervention. The timing of the blood moon's appearance in the game's progression is significant. It occurs after the player has demonstrated significant growth and capability, after they have proven themselves as a hunter and begun to develop cosmic awareness. This timing suggests that the blood moon is not a random event, but a calculated response to the player's development, the Great Ones recognizing that a particularly promising candidate has emerged and intensifying their efforts to transform or claim them. The immediate aftermath of the blood moon's appearance creates a fundamentally different Yharnam. The city that was already horrific becomes even more nightmarish. The comfortable fiction that this was simply a beast plague, a medical crisis that might eventually be resolved, is shattered. The cosmic truth becomes unavoidable. Yharnam is not suffering from a disease but from the attention of cosmic beings whose purposes and methods transcend human understanding. The pregnancies that occur under the blood moon, then, represent the Great One's most direct and desperate attempts at creating surrogate children. Unable to reproduce naturally, unable to adopt human children without transforming them beyond recognition, the Great Ones resort to forced biological manipulation, impregnating mortal women, and hoping that the resulting hybrid offspring will somehow bridge the gap between mortal and cosmic existence. But these attempts, like all previous strategies, fail to produce truly viable surrogate children. The offspring are fragile, dependent, and ultimately incomplete. They possess some cosmic characteristics, but lack the full power and consciousness of Great Ones. They retain some human characteristics, but lack the warmth and developmental potential of human children. They exist in a liminal state, suitable neither for cosmic nor mortal existence, their very existence a testament to the impossibility of the Great Ones' quest. Beyond the hunter's dream lies a complex network of nightmare realms, each designed to test different aspects of potential surrogate children and serve the specific purposes of various Great Ones. These nightmares represent the darker side of the cosmic nursery system, where the Great One's alien nature and imperfect understanding of mortal psychology create spaces of testing that often border on torture. The Nightmare Frontier stands as one of the most revealing examples of how the Great Ones' testing grounds reflect their alien priorities. Ruled by amygdala, this poisonous wasteland serves as a trial by endurance and adaptation. The constant threat of poison damage, the maze-like layout, and the presence of hostile silver beasts create an environment where only the most persistent and adaptable hunters can succeed. The Nightmare Frontier's design reveals amygdala's understanding of what makes a suitable surrogate child. The emphasis on endurance and adaptation suggests that amygdala values persistence and flexibility in potential offspring. The realm's labyrinthine structure forces hunters to demonstrate problem-solving skills and spatial reasoning, while the constant environmental threats test their ability to manage resources and maintain focus under pressure. The silver beasts that populate the Nightmare Frontier tell their own tragic story. These creatures, possibly descended from the people of Orphan, an ancient civilization destroyed by a previous beast scourge, represent a previous generation's failure to successfully navigate cosmic transformation. Their preservation in the Nightmare Realm suggests that the Great Ones maintain archives of failed attempts, studying past failures to refine future strategies. The presence of multiple amygdalae throughout Yharnam suggests that these Great Ones serve as observers and evaluators, watching for suitable candidates who might be worthy of testing in their Nightmare Realm. The fact that amygdala can transport hunters to the Nightmare Frontier through the grab attack that occurs after gaining sufficient insight indicates their active role in the selection and evaluation process. The hunter's nightmare, accessed through the DLC content, reveals another aspect of the Great One's testing system. This realm serves both as punishment for hunters who have committed grave sins and as a proving ground for those seeking redemption or transcendence. The nightmare's design reflects the Great One's understanding of justice and moral development, suggesting that they value ethical behavior in their surrogate children. The hunter's nightmare's emphasis on confronting past sins and overcoming personal demons reveals the Great One's sophisticated understanding of psychological development. The presence of corrupted versions of familiar locations and enemies forces hunters to confront their own capacity for violence and moral compromise. This psychological testing serves to identify hunters who possess the moral flexibility necessary for cosmic existence, while weeding out those who might be too rigid or guilt-ridden to serve as suitable surrogates. Ludwig, the accursed holy blade, serves as the first major boss of the hunter's nightmare, embodying the tragedy of a hunter who lost himself to the beast within. Ludwig was once the first hunter of the Healing Church, a figure of inspiration and leadership. His transformation into a grotesque horse-like beast represents the ultimate failure of trying to serve cosmic purposes while maintaining human identity. The two-phase nature of Ludwig's fight provides crucial insight into the persistence of human consciousness even after complete physical transformation. In his first phase, Ludwig is entirely bestial, attacking with mindless fury and displaying no recognition of his former identity. But if the player is wearing church attire, Ludwig may recognize them in his second phase, briefly regaining his sanity and his holy moonlight sword. This moment of recognition, when Ludwig remembers who he was, acknowledges the horror of what he has become, yet still finds meaning in the holy moonlight sword that represented his ideals, is one of the most emotionally powerful moments in the game. It suggests that even complete cosmic transformation cannot entirely erase human identity, that consciousness persists in some form even after the body has been corrupted beyond recognition. Ludwig's dying words, asking whether the church hunters were the good guys, reveal the desperate need for moral validation, even in the face of obvious evidence to the contrary. The player can choose to lie and comfort him or tell him the truth about the church's corruption. Either choice carries weight, the comfort of a merciful lie versus the harsh truth that might finally release Ludwig from his delusions. Lady Maria serves as the gatekeeper to the fishing hamlet, representing the guilt and trauma of those who participated in the massacre. Her boss fight is elegant and deadly, her movements precise and controlled even in the nightmare. This control stands in stark contrast to Ludwig's mindless fury, suggesting that Maria has retained far more of her human consciousness and identity despite her imprisonment in the nightmare. Maria's resistance to allowing the player to access the fishing hamlet stems from her desire to prevent further desecration of costs and the repetition of past sins. She understands what the player will find beyond her, the truth of what the church in Byrgenwerth did, the orphan still crying for its lost mother. Her determination to prevent access suggests both protective impulses toward Kos and a desire to prevent others from bearing the guilt that has consumed her. The nightmare of Mensis represents perhaps the most complex and dangerous of the testing grounds. Created through the school of Mensis's ritual to contact Mergo, this nightmare serves multiple purposes in the Great One's surrogate creation system. It functions simultaneously as a prison for Mergo, a testing ground for hunters capable of navigating its unique dangers, and a demonstration of the catastrophic results of forced cosmic ascension. The nightmare of Mensis's design reflects the combined influence of multiple Great Ones and human ritual magic. The presence of the brain of Mensis creates areas of intense frenzy that test the hunter's mental stability and resistance to cosmic madness. The maze-like structure of the realm, combined with hostile shadows of Yharnam and other enemies, evaluates the hunter's combat skills and tactical thinking. The brain of Mensis itself represents one of the most disturbing creations in Bloodborne's universe. This enormous brain, suspended above the nightmare, and described as terribly rotten and lined with eyes of an evil sort, appears to be the collective consciousness of the Mensis scholars fused into a single grotesque entity. Its gaze induces frenzy in those who witness it, suggesting that even perceiving this failed cosmic creation is dangerous to mortal consciousness. The ability to access the brain of Mensis and destroy it represents one of the few clear victories the player can achieve against cosmic forces. Dropping the brain into the pit below and then descending to attack it provides a sense of agency and accomplishment rare in a game where most victories feel ambiguous or costly. Yet even this victory raises questions. Was destroying the brain merciful, ending the suffering of the trapped scholars, or cruel, denying them their desired cosmic communion? Michaelash, host of the Nightmare, serves as both boss and tragic figure in the Nightmare of Mensis. His dialogue reveals a mind that has achieved partial cosmic consciousness while losing coherence and sanity. He speaks in fragments of cosmic revelation, references to great ones, and expressions of obsession with gaining eyes on the inside. The chase sequence that comprises much of Michaelash's boss fight creates a unique tone simultaneously comedic in its absurdity and disturbing in what it represents. Chasing this laughing madman through nightmare corridors while he babbles about cosmic truth creates a sense of pursuing knowledge that doesn't want to be caught, of chasing enlightenment that proves hollow once obtained. Michaelash's ultimate fate, trapped forever in the nightmare he helped create, repeating his obsessions and revelations endlessly represents perhaps the most thorough form of cosmic punishment. He achieved what he sought, cosmic consciousness and immortality, but the achievement brought only isolation, madness, and eternal repetition rather than transcendence and fulfillment. The requirement to silence Mergo's crying represents the hunter's final test in the Nightmare of Mensis. The player must demonstrate both the compassion to understand Mergo's suffering and the strength to take decisive action to end it. This test reveals the Great One's understanding that suitable surrogate children must possess both empathy and the willingness to make difficult decisions. Mergo's wet nurse serves as the guardian of the crying infant, a massive entity with multiple arms and a faceless visage that embodies the inadequacy of artificial caretaking. The boss fight takes place in Mergo's loft, a space that should be a nursery but instead feels like a tomb or prison. The fog that periodically obscures the battlefield suggests the unclear boundaries between different states of existence in this realm. Defeating Mergo's wet nurse silences the crying infant, completing the hunter's test and advancing them toward the final confrontation with Yearn and potentially the moon presence. The message, Nightmare Slain, that appears after the fight is significant, unlike defeating other bosses, which are simply defeated. Completing the Nightmare of Mensis actually ends the nightmare itself, suggesting that Mergo's eternal crying was what sustained this realm. The various chalice dungeons accessible through the dream represent yet another form of testing ground, focusing on different aspects of surrogate development. These procedurally generated labyrinths test the hunter's ability to adapt to unpredictable environments and overcome challenges without prior knowledge or preparation. The Chalice Dungeon's connection to the ancient Thumerian civilization reveals the historical scope of the Great One's surrogate creation efforts. The presence of Thumerian enemies and artifacts suggests that the Great Ones have been using similar testing methods for millennia, constantly refining their selection and evaluation processes based on the results of previous attempts. The deepest dungeons, with their cursed environments that reduce the player's maximum health and increase difficulty dramatically, represent final examinations for hunters approaching readiness for cosmic transformation. The bosses encountered in these depths, including Thumerian Descendant, Thumerian Elder, and eventually Yharnam, Thumerian Queen, herself, demonstrate the pinnacle of what previous civilizations achieved in their attempts to serve or become surrogates for the Great Ones. The increasing difficulty and complexity of the Chalice Dungeons serve as a graduated testing system, allowing the Great Ones to evaluate hunters at various stages of development. The requirement to defeat certain bosses to obtain materials needed to create deeper chalices creates a natural progression system that ensures only hunters who have demonstrated appropriate capability can access the most challenging tests. The presence of Great One enemies within these testing realms serves multiple purposes. First, it allows the Great Ones to observe how potential surrogates interact with cosmic beings, evaluating their responses to otherworldly entities. Second, it provides direct testing of the hunter's combat capabilities against cosmic-level threats. Finally, it serves as a form of cosmic education, exposing hunters to the reality of Great One existence and preparing them for eventual transformation. The Nightmare Realm's ability to trap souls and consciousness reveals another aspect of the Great One's testing methodology. By creating environments where death does not provide escape, the Great Ones can conduct extended evaluations of potential surrogates without losing valuable candidates to mortality. This trapped existence also serves as preparation for cosmic consciousness, which exists outside normal temporal and spatial limitations. The interconnected nature of the nightmare realms visible in the connections between different nightmare areas and the ability to travel between them reveals the scope and sophistication of the cosmic ecology. All nightmare realms exist within a single cosmic space that surrounds and supports the mortal world, a multi-layered testing system designed to evaluate every aspect of a candidate's suitability for cosmic transformation. The true tragedy of the Great Ones lies not in their power or their alien nature, but in their fundamental misunderstanding of what makes parenthood meaningful and successful. Despite their cosmic consciousness and multi-dimensional awareness, the Great Ones consistently fail to grasp the essential elements of nurturing, development, and love that characterize successful parent-child relationships. This failure stems from the Great Ones' transcendent nature itself. Their existence across multiple planes of reality means they cannot be fully present in any single moment or dimension long enough to provide the consistent, focused attention that developing children require. The cosmic perspective that grants them their power also blinds them to the intimate moment-to-moment experiences that form the foundation of meaningful relationships. The Great Ones approach parenthood as a problem to be solved through power and manipulation rather than a relationship to be developed through patience and understanding. Their attempts to create surrogate children focus on acquisition and control rather than genuine nurturing and development. This approach consistently produces children who are powerful but stunted, cosmic but incomplete. Mergo's eternal crying serves as perhaps the most poignant symbol of this cosmic parental failure. Despite being the child of a Great One and possessing formless existence that should free it from mortal limitations, Mergo remains trapped in a state of perpetual distress. The child's cries echo throughout the nightmare of Mensis, a constant reminder of unmet needs and unfulfilled potential. The protection provided by Mergo's wet nurse reveals the Great Ones' attempt to address their parental inadequacies through delegation. Unable to provide direct nurturing themselves, they create or recruit surrogate caregivers to fulfill parental functions. However, these caregivers, being artificial constructs or transformed beings, cannot provide the genuine emotional connection and understanding that children need for healthy development. The wet nurse's appearance, a towering figure with multiple arms but no face, no voice, no individuality, embodies the emptiness of artificial caregiving. It can perform the mechanical functions of childcare, protection, presence, perhaps even feeding in some cosmic sense, but it cannot provide love, understanding, or the dynamic responsiveness that characterizes genuine parental relationships. The Orphan of Kos represents another aspect of cosmic parental failure. Emerging from its dead mother's womb in a state of rage and violence, the orphan embodies the trauma and abandonment that characterizes many Great One children. Its aggressive behavior and eventual return to the cosmic ocean suggest a being that never received the nurturing necessary for healthy emotional development. The orphan's use of its own placenta as a weapon represents the perversion of nurturing symbols into instruments of violence. The placenta should represent connection, nourishment, and the bond between mother and child. Instead, the orphan wields it as a club, beating at perceived threats with the very symbol of maternal care. This transformation encapsulates how cosmic children, deprived of genuine nurturing, transform the tools and symbols of care into weapons. The relationship between Ebrietas and the scholars at Byrgenwerth illustrates the Great One's confusion between parenthood and manipulation. Ebrietas shared cosmic knowledge with the scholars not out of genuine desire to help them develop, but as part of her quest to transform them into suitable surrogate children. This instrumental approach to relationships prevents the formation of genuine emotional bonds. The scholar's transformation into kin represents the predictable result of this manipulative approach to parenthood. Rather than growing into fulfilled cosmic beings, They become stunted creatures that have lost their humanity without gaining genuine cosmic consciousness. They serve Ebrietas' needs without receiving the love and support necessary for their own development. The moon presence's relationship with the hunters in the dream reveals similar patterns of cosmic parental failure. Despite creating an elaborate system for identifying and developing potential surrogate children, the moon presence ultimately seeks to control and transform its chosen candidates rather than genuinely nurture them. The endless cycle of hunting and death serves the moon presence's needs for evaluation and testing, but provides little opportunity for the genuine growth and development that children require. Yearn's role as a surrogate father figure highlights the inadequacy of the Great One's approach to parenthood. While Yearn provides guidance and instruction to the hunters, he is ultimately trapped by the moon presence's design, unable to offer genuine freedom or independence to his charges. His final offer to free the hunter from the dream represents his recognition of this fundamental limitation, acknowledging that true parenthood requires the willingness to let children choose their own paths. The doll's maternal role, while more nurturing than other cosmic attempts at childcare, still reflects the artificial and incomplete nature of Great One parenthood. Created as an idealized version of Maria, the doll can provide comfort and support, but lacks the complex emotions and personal history that characterize genuine maternal relationships. Her love, while sincere within its limitations, is programmed rather than developed through shared experience. The hunter's eventual transformation into an infant Great One, cradled by the doll, represents both the culmination and the ultimate failure of the cosmic parental project. While the moon presence has finally achieved its goal of creating a surrogate child, the process has stripped away the very humanity that made the hunter valuable as a surrogate in the first place. The resulting infant Great One may possess cosmic power, but it has lost the experiences and perspectives that originally attracted the moon presence's attention. This pattern of cosmic parental failure extends beyond individual relationships to encompass entire civilizations. The Thumerians, the people of Orphan, the scholars of Byrgenwerth, the citizens of Yharnam all represent societies that have been touched by the Great One's quest for surrogate children, and all have ultimately been destroyed or corrupted by the experience. The Great One's inability to understand the destructive nature of their influence stems from their cosmic perspective. From their multi-dimensional viewpoint, the suffering and destruction they cause may appear temporary or insignificant compared to the cosmic purposes they serve. However, this perspective blinds them to the genuine value of mortal experience and the irreplaceable nature of human consciousness and culture. The recurring phrase, "Every Great One loses its child, and then yearns for a surrogate," takes on additional meaning when viewed through this lens of cosmic parental failure. The Great Ones do not simply lose their children through unfortunate circumstances. They actively drive them away through their inability to provide genuine love and nurturing. Their subsequent yearning for surrogates represents not just reproductive drive, but a desperate attempt to fill the emotional void created by their own parental inadequacies. The Great Ones cannot provide the immediate, present, focused attention that children need because their consciousness is spread across multiple dimensions and timelines. They cannot offer unconditional love because their every action serves their own needs for surrogate children. They cannot allow their children genuine independence because they fear losing them again, as they have lost all previous children. This creates a fundamental paradox. The Great Ones need surrogate children precisely because they cannot be good parents, and they cannot be good parents precisely because of the cosmic consciousness that makes them Great Ones in the first place. Their transcendent awareness, which should grant them wisdom and understanding, instead traps them in cycles of failed parenthood and renewed yearning. The tragedy is compounded by the Great One's sympathetic nature. They genuinely care about their potential surrogate children. They truly want to provide nurturing and support. They honestly believe their actions serve the best interests of those they transform, but their cosmic nature warps these good intentions, turning care into control, protection into imprisonment, and nurturing into transformation that destroys what it seeks to preserve. The player's journey through Bloodborne culminates in the potential transformation into an infant Great One, the ultimate success of the moon presence's surrogate creation strategy, and the fulfillment of the Great One's eternal yearning. But this transformation, far from being a simple power fantasy or triumphant ascension, represents a deeply ambiguous outcome that embodies all the tragic complexity of the Great One's quest for surrogate children. The process of transformation requires specific conditions and choices on the part of the player. The hunter must consume 3 third umbilical cords, each representing a failed attempt by Great Ones to create or nurture children. These cords are found in diverse locations, each telling a story of cosmic loss. One comes from the abandoned workshop, connecting to the Moon Presence's previous attempts at creating surrogate children through earlier hunter generations. This cord suggests that the current hunter is not the first to undergo this cultivation process, that countless previous hunters have been tested and found wanting, their umbilical cords left behind as monuments to failed transformation. Another can be obtained from Iosefka's clinic, connected to Oedon's impregnation of the false Iosefka. This cord represents the failure of forced cosmic pregnancy, the inability of hybrid offspring to survive independently of their mortal mothers. It carries within it the grief of Oedon's repeated failures to create viable children through biological manipulation. A third comes from Ariana's child, another of Oedon's failed reproductive attempts. The hunter must kill this fragile, dependent creature to obtain its cord, an act that forces the player to participate directly in the cycle of cosmic loss and the destruction of surrogate children. This murder is necessary for transcendence, suggesting that achieving cosmic consciousness requires complicity in the very tragedies that define Great One existence. The fourth cord, which the player needs only 3 of, but which exists for those who explore thoroughly, comes from Mergo's corpse in the Nightmare of Mensis, or from making contact with the brain of Mensis. This cord represents the most successful of Oedon's children, yet even Mergo exists only as eternal crying, forever trapped in infantile distress. The act of consuming these cords is deeply significant. The hunter does not merely collect them as power-ups or magical items. They literally ingest the accumulated grief, yearning, and cosmic consciousness of multiple Great Ones. This consumption represents a form of spiritual cannibalism, taking into oneself the very essence of cosmic loss and making it part of one's own consciousness. The description of the third umbilical cord states that it grants eyes on the inside, the cosmic perspective necessary to perceive and interact with Great Ones on their own level. This phrase suggests that cosmic awareness is not something external to be observed, but something internal to be experienced, a fundamental restructuring of consciousness that allows one to perceive realities that remain hidden to normal human awareness. By consuming 3 cords, the hunter achieves a critical mass of cosmic consciousness. Their perception of reality fundamentally shifts. They can now perceive the Moon Presence not as an all-powerful deity, but as another being subject to the same laws and limitations that govern all existence. This shift in perspective is what allows the hunter to resist the Moon Presence's attempt at binding, and instead challenge the Great One directly. The confrontation with yearn serves as the penultimate test of the hunter's readiness for transformation. If the hunter accepts yearn's offer to free them from the dream, they return to the waking world with no memory of their experiences, a rejection of cosmic transformation in favor of mortal limitations and genuine human existence. This ending, Yharnam Sunrise, represents a choice to value immediate, limited, but authentic human experience over cosmic awareness and power. If the hunter refuses yearn's mercy but has not consumed enough umbilical cords, they defeat yearn only to be immediately bound by the Moon Presence. They awaken in the workshop as the new caretaker of the dream, replacing yearn in his role as surrogate father to future hunters. This ending, honoring wishes, represents a partial transcendence. The hunter has gained immortality and a form of cosmic service, but they remain subject to the Moon Presence's will, unable to truly escape the cycle. But if the hunter has consumed 3 umbilical cords and refuses yearn's offer, a different fate awaits. After defeating yearn, the Moon Presence descends to bind the hunter to service. However, the cosmic awareness granted by the umbilical cords allows the hunter to resist. Instead of being bound, the hunter perceives the Moon Presence as a physical entity that can be challenged and defeated. The boss fight against the Moon Presence is notably different from other encounters in Bloodborne. The Moon Presence is not particularly difficult compared to other late-game bosses. Its attacks are telegraphed, its health pool is modest, and most hunters who reach this point will defeat it on their first or second attempt. This relative ease is significant. It suggests that from the perspective of someone with sufficient cosmic awareness, the Great Ones are not overwhelming or invincible. They are simply beings operating according to different rules, and once those rules are understood, they can be overcome. The Moon Presence's appearance during the fight reveals its true nature. It is not a beautiful or awe-inspiring entity, but a grotesque creature with pale flesh, multiple eyes, and limbs that seem designed for purposes beyond human comprehension. Its movements have a desperate quality, particularly the attack, where it reduces the hunter's health to 1 point, a move that seems intended to create dependency rather than kill outright, fitting for a being whose goal is to bind rather than destroy. Upon defeating the Moon Presence, the hunter undergoes the final transformation. They collapse, their body seemingly failing under the weight of cosmic consciousness. The screen fades. When vision returns, the doll is seen approaching, her movements careful and reverent. She reaches down and lifts something small and pale, the hunter, transformed into an infant Great One. This transformation scene is one of the most emotionally complex moments in gaming. The doll's gentle care as she cradles the infant Great One suggests maternal love and protection. Her dialogue, "Are you cold, O good hunter?" echoes her earlier offer of comfort, maintaining continuity between the hunter's past and transformed state. Yet there is also profound sadness in the scene, an acknowledgement of what has been lost in this supposed ascension. The player's journey through Bloodborne culminates in the potential transformation into an infant Great One, the ultimate success of the Moon Presence's surrogate creation strategy and the fulfillment of the Great One's eternal yearning. But this transformation, far from being a simple power fantasy or triumphant ascension, represents a deeply ambiguous outcome that embodies all the tragic complexity of the Great One's quest for surrogate children. The process of transformation requires specific conditions and choices on the part of the player. The hunter must consume 3/3 umbilical cords, each representing a failed attempt by Great Ones to create or nurture children. These cords are found in diverse locations, each telling a story of cosmic loss. One comes from the abandoned workshop, connecting to the Moon Presence's previous attempts at creating surrogate children through earlier hunter generations. This cord suggests that the current hunter is not the first to undergo this cultivation process, that countless previous hunters have been tested and found wanting, their umbilical cords left behind as monuments to failed transformation. Another can be obtained from Iosefka's clinic, connected to Oedon's impregnation of the false Iosefka. This cord represents the failure of forced cosmic pregnancy, the inability of hybrid offspring to survive independently of their mortal mothers. It carries within it the grief of Oedon's repeated failures to create viable children through biological manipulation. A third comes from Ariana's child, another of Oedon's failed reproductive attempts. The hunter must kill this fragile, dependent creature to obtain its cord, an act that forces the player to participate directly in the cycle of cosmic loss and the destruction of surrogate children. This murder is necessary for transcendence, suggesting that achieving cosmic consciousness requires complicity in the very tragedies that define Great One existence. The fourth cord, which the player needs only 3 of, but which exists for those who explore thoroughly, comes from Mergo's corpse in the Nightmare of Mensis, or from making contact with the brain of Mensis. This cord represents the most successful of Oedon's children, yet even Mergo exists only as eternal crying, forever trapped in infantile distress. The act of consuming these cords is deeply significant. The hunter does not merely collect them as power-ups or magical items. They literally ingest the accumulated grief, yearning, and cosmic consciousness of multiple Great Ones. This consumption represents a form of spiritual cannibalism, taking into oneself the very essence of cosmic loss and making it part of one's own consciousness. The description of the 3rd umbilical cord states that it grants eyes on the inside. The the cosmic perspective necessary to perceive and interact with great ones on their own level. This phrase suggests that cosmic awareness is not something external to be observed, but something internal to be experienced, a fundamental restructuring of consciousness that allows one to perceive realities that remain hidden to normal human awareness. By consuming 3 cords, the hunter achieves a critical mass of cosmic consciousness. Their perception of reality fundamentally shifts. They can now perceive the moon presence not as an all-powerful deity, but as another being subject to the same laws and limitations that govern all existence. This shift in perspective is what allows the hunter to resist the moon presence's attempt at binding, and instead challenge the Great One directly. The confrontation with yearn serves as the penultimate test of the hunter's readiness for transformation. If the hunter accepts yearn's offer to free them from the dream, they return to the waking world with no memory of their experiences, a rejection of cosmic transformation in favor of mortal limitations and genuine human existence. This ending, Yharnam Sunrise, represents a choice to value immediate, limited, but authentic human experience over cosmic awareness and power. If the hunter refuses yearn's mercy, but has not consumed enough umbilical cords, they defeat yearn only to be immediately bound by the moon presence. They awaken in the workshop as the new caretaker of the dream, replacing yearn in his role as surrogate father to future hunters. This ending, honoring wishes, represents a partial transcendence. The hunter has gained immortality and a form of cosmic service, but they remain subject to the moon presence's will, unable to truly escape the cycle. But if the hunter has consumed 3 umbilical cords and refuses yearn's offer, a different fate awaits. After defeating yearn, the moon presence descends to bind the hunter to service. However, the cosmic awareness granted by the umbilical cords allows the hunter to resist. Instead of being bound, the hunter perceives the moon presence as a physical entity that can be challenged and defeated. The boss fight against the moon presence is notably different from other encounters in Bloodborne. The moon presence is not particularly difficult compared to other late-game bosses. Its attacks are telegraphed, its health pool is modest, and most hunters who reach this point will defeat it on their first or second attempt. This relative ease is significant. It suggests that from the perspective of someone with sufficient cosmic awareness, the Great Ones are not overwhelming or invincible. They are simply beings operating according to different rules, and once those rules are understood, they can be overcome. The moon presence's appearance during the fight reveals its true nature. It is not a beautiful or awe-inspiring entity, but a grotesque creature with pale flesh, multiple eyes, and limbs that seem designed for purposes beyond human comprehension. Its movements have a desperate quality, particularly the attack where it reduces the hunter's health to 1 point, a move that seems intended to create dependency rather than kill outright, fitting for a being whose goal is to bind rather than destroy. Upon defeating the moon presence, the hunter undergoes the final transformation. They collapse, their bodies seemingly failing under the weight of cosmic consciousness. The screen fades. When vision returns, the doll is seen approaching, her movements careful and reverent. She reaches down and lifts something small and pale, the hunter, transformed into an infant Great One. This transformation scene is one of the most emotionally complex moments in gaming. The doll's gentle care as she cradles the infant Great One suggests maternal love and protection. Her dialogue, "Are you cold, O good hunter?" echoes her earlier offer of comfort, maintaining continuity between the hunter's past and transformed state. Yet there is also profound sadness in the scene, an acknowledgement of what has been lost in this supposed ascension. The childhood's beginning message that appears confirms that this is not an ending but a beginning, the start of a new existence as a Great One. But what kind of existence awaits this newborn cosmic being? The transformation raises as many questions as it answers. The infant Great One retains the hunter's memories and experiences. This much seems certain from the game's implications. The consciousness that defeated yearn and the moon presence has not been destroyed but transformed. Yet this consciousness now exists in an infantile state, requiring care and nurturing from the doll, who serves as a surrogate mother for this cosmic newborn. This infantile state is crucial to understanding the transformation's true nature. The hunter has not simply become a great one in full. They have become an infant great one, beginning the developmental process that will eventually lead to full cosmic consciousness. This suggests that great ones undergo development and growth, that they are not simply created fully formed but must mature over time, just as human children do. However, the fact that the newborn Great One requires artificial care from the doll reveals a fundamental problem. Natural human development occurs through interaction with parents who themselves develop naturally, who understand through lived experience what their children need. The doll, despite her genuine care and maternal instincts, is an artificial being created to serve specific functions. She can provide comfort and protection, but can she provide the dynamic, responsive nurturing that genuine development requires? The moon presence's defeat and the hunter's transformation may have finally given the Great Ones what they sought, a surrogate child who combines mortal memory with cosmic consciousness. But at what cost? The hunter who enters the transformation is an individual with agency, goals, relationships, and identity. The infant Great One that emerges possesses these as memories, but exists in a state of helplessness and dependency that strips away the capacity to act on those memories. This transformation also perpetuates the cycle of cosmic loss and yearning. The newborn Great One will presumably mature, developing its own cosmic consciousness and perspective. As it does, it will likely discover that it too cannot create viable offspring, that it too will lose any children it manages to conceive. The hunter's transformation does not solve the Great One's fundamental problem. It simply adds another member to their ranks who will share in their eternal tragedy. The choice to pursue this transformation lies entirely with the player. The game does not force this outcome, but makes it available to those who explore thoroughly, consume the umbilical cords, and choose to resist Gehrman's offer of mercy. This choice-based structure suggests that the transformation represents one possible interpretation of what it means to win in Bloodborne's universe, but not necessarily the correct or best interpretation. Some players view the transformation ending as the true ending, the culmination of the hunter's journey, and the achievement of ultimate power and transcendence. This interpretation emphasizes the hunter's agency in choosing their fate, their triumph over forces that sought to control them, and their ascension to a state of existence beyond mortal limitations. Other players view the transformation as tragedy, a defeat disguised as victory. This interpretation emphasizes what is lost in the transformation: the hunter's humanity, their relationships, their capacity for immediate experience and authentic emotion. From this perspective, the childhood's ending represents not transcendence but entrapment in a new form, trading mortal limitations for cosmic loneliness. The game deliberately refuses to resolve this ambiguity, presenting the transformation in ways that support both interpretations. The doll's gentle care suggests loving support, but her artificial nature hints at inadequate nurturing. The achievement of cosmic consciousness suggests triumph, but the infantile state suggests vulnerability and dependency. The defeat of the moon presence demonstrates power, but the need for that defeat reveals the manipulative nature of the entire dream system. The hunter's transformation also has implications for the other endings. The Yharnam Sunrise ending, where the hunter awakens in the waking world, suggests that escape from the cosmic cycle is possible, that one can reject transcendence in favor of authentic mortal existence, even if that existence comes with limitations and eventual death. This ending represents a choice to value the quality of experience over the duration or scope of existence. The Honoring Wishes ending, where the hunter becomes the new caretaker of the dream, represents acceptance of a role within the cosmic system without fully transcending mortal limitations. The hunter gains immortality and purpose, but remains subject to the moon presence's will, serving as the next generation's Gehrman. This ending suggests that one can find meaning in service even within exploitative systems, or alternatively, that resistance without sufficient preparation leads only to perpetuation of cycles of exploitation. The transformation ending stands apart from these alternatives as the only outcome, where the hunter genuinely transcends both mortal limitation and cosmic servitude. Yet this transcendence comes at the cost of everything that made the hunter who they were: their agency, their relationships, their human perspective, their very body. The doll's role in caring for the transformed hunter reveals another layer of tragedy. Throughout the game, she has served as a maternal figure to the hunter, providing comfort, encouragement, and practical support. Her care has been genuine within the limitations of her artificial nature. Now, with the hunter transformed into an infant Great One, her maternal role becomes literal. She is caring for an actual infant, rather than serving as a metaphorical mother figure to adult hunters. But this literal motherhood raises questions about the doll's capacity to nurture cosmic development. She was created to serve mortal hunters, to provide the specific types of care and support that human beings need. Can she adapt to caring for a cosmic infant whose developmental needs may be entirely different? Her artificial nature means she cannot draw on instinct or personal experience to guide her parenting. She must rely on programming and her own limited understanding of what cosmic infants require. The workshop where the transformation occurs becomes a cosmic nursery, a space that previously served to equip hunters for violence, now repurposed to shelter and nurture an infant Great One. The weapons that line the walls, the tools of death and destruction, surround this scene of new life and vulnerability. This juxtaposition suggests the fundamental tension in the Great One's approach to surrogate creation. They use systems designed for other purposes, hunting, violence, testing, and attempt to repurpose them for nurturing and development. The transformation also raises questions about what happens next. The game ends with the doll cradling the infant Great One, but what follows this moment? How does a Great One develop and mature? What does childhood look like for a cosmic being? Will the transformed hunter-turned Great One maintain its mortal memories and perspective as it develops? Or will these gradually fade as cosmic consciousness expands to fill the entirety of its awareness? If mortal memories persist, the newborn Great One may possess unique advantages over naturally occurring Great Ones. It will understand human perspective from direct experience rather than observation. It may be capable of genuine empathy and connection with mortal beings in ways that other Great Ones cannot achieve. This could potentially allow it to succeed where other Great Ones have failed to create and nurture surrogate children without destroying what makes them valuable. However, if mortal memories fade as cosmic consciousness develops, the transformation becomes even more tragic. The hunter's entire journey, all their struggles and growth, would serve only as a foundation that gets built over and eventually buried by cosmic awareness. The individual who fought through Yharnam, who made difficult choices, who built relationships with NPCs, would gradually disappear, leaving only another Great One subject to the same limitations and tragedies that define all cosmic beings. The game provides no clear answer to these questions, leaving players to interpret the transformation's ultimate meaning based on their own values and perspectives. This ambiguity is deliberate and thematically appropriate. Bloodborne consistently refuses to provide simple answers or clear moral frameworks, instead presenting complex situations where every choice carries costs and benefits, where every victory is also a loss. And so concludes our deep dive into the true purpose of the Great Ones in Bloodborne. We've discovered that these cosmic beings, for all their power and transcendent awareness, are driven by the most fundamentally human of emotions, the desire for connection, love, and meaningful relationship. Their quest for surrogate children represents not conquest or malevolence, but a desperate attempt to escape the isolation that comes with cosmic consciousness. The tragedy of the Great Ones lies in their inability to achieve what they most desire. Their cosmic nature, which grants them incredible power and multi-dimensional awareness, also prevents them from forming the intimate, immediate connections that give existence meaning. They can observe love from a cosmic perspective, but they cannot experience it directly. They can manipulate reality itself, but they cannot create genuine emotional bonds. Every aspect of Bloodborne's horror stems from this central tragedy. The beast scourge, the corruption of the healing church, the nightmare realms that trap souls in eternal torment. All of these represent the collateral damage of cosmic beings trying to solve an unsolvable problem. The Great Ones' attempts to create surrogate children consistently fail because success would require them to transcend their own cosmic nature, which they cannot do without ceasing to be Great Ones. The hunter's journey through Yharnam, and the Nightmare Realm serves as both a test and a tragedy. Those who complete the journey successfully become the cosmic children the Great Ones desire, but at the cost of their own humanity. The transformation grants cosmic awareness and power, but strips away the mortal experiences and perspectives that made the hunter appealing as a surrogate in the first place. The game's multiple endings reflect different responses to this cosmic tragedy. The Yharnam Sunrise ending represents rejection of cosmic consciousness in favor of mortal limitation and genuine human connection. The Honoring Wishes ending accepts a servant role within cosmic hierarchy while maintaining some degree of human perspective. The Childhood's Beginning ending embraces full transformation into cosmic consciousness, achieving the Great One's goal while perpetuating their tragic cycle. Perhaps the most profound insight Bloodborne offers is that transcendence and connection may be fundamentally incompatible. The Great Ones achieved cosmic consciousness by abandoning mortal limitations, but those limitations were precisely what made meaningful relationship possible. Their quest for surrogate children represents an attempt to have both transcendence and connection, but the game suggests this may be impossible. The sympathetic nature of the Great Ones makes their tragedy all the more poignant. They are not evil beings seeking to destroy humanity for sport or conquest. They are lonely entities desperately seeking the connection they have lost. Their cosmic perspective allows them to see the suffering their actions cause, yet they cannot stop themselves from continuing their quest for surrogate children because the alternative is accepting permanent isolation from meaningful existence. Each Great One we encounter represents a different strategy for achieving the impossible goal of creating viable surrogate children. Oedon works through blood and formless consciousness, impregnating mortal women and hoping to create hybrid offspring that can bridge mortal and cosmic realms. The Moon Presence creates elaborate testing grounds and cultivation systems, carefully selecting and preparing candidates for eventual transformation. Ebrietas shares cosmic knowledge directly, attempting to elevate humanity to a state where they can serve as suitable companions. Kos, before her death, represented the possibility of natural Great One reproduction, though even this ultimately failed. All these strategies, despite their sophistication and the immense resources dedicated to them, produce only partial successes and complete failures. Mergo exists but remains eternally trapped in infantile crying. Ariana's child survives but cannot exist independently of its mother. The scholars who gained cosmic insight became kin, losing their humanity without achieving genuine transcendence. The hunter who transforms into an infant Great One achieves cosmic consciousness but loses human agency and enters a state of complete dependency. The recurring cycles of cosmic loss and failed surrogate creation suggest that the Great Ones are trapped in a pattern that serves no one's true interests. Their quest consistently fails to achieve its stated goals while causing tremendous suffering for the mortal beings caught up in the process. Yet their cosmic consciousness prevents them from abandoning the attempt, as the alternative is accepting permanent isolation from meaningful existence. The legacy of the Great Ones continues to resonate beyond Yharnam. The nightmare realms they create, the corrupted bloodlines they establish, and the cosmic awareness they grant all persist long after individual Great Ones have moved on to other pursuits. Their influence becomes part of the fundamental structure of reality, ensuring that their tragic quest for connection will continue across generations and civilizations. In the end, Bloodborne presents us with a cosmic horror story that is also profoundly human. The Great One's quest for surrogate children reflects our own struggles with growth, loss, and the tension between individual transcendence and meaningful relationship. Their failure to achieve genuine connection, despite their cosmic power, serves as both warning and tragedy, a reminder that some forms of transcendence come at costs too high to bear. The hunt never truly ends because the need for connection never ends. Whether we ascend to cosmic consciousness or remain bound by mortal limitations, we continue to seek the relationships and bonds that give existence meaning. The Great One's eternal quest for surrogate children mirrors our own eternal quest for love, understanding, and genuine connection with others who can share our experiences and ease our fundamental loneliness. Fear the old blood not because it transforms us into beasts, but because it offers false solutions to real problems. The promise of cosmic transcendence and power attracts us precisely because we understand the loneliness and limitation that drive the Great One's desperate quest. We recognize in their cosmic sorrow our own deeply human need for connection and meaning. The true horror of Bloodborne lies not in its monsters or its gore, but in its revelation that even cosmic consciousness cannot solve the fundamental problems of existence. Power without connection, awareness without intimacy, transcendence without love, these represent the cosmic hell that awaits those who seek to escape human limitation without understanding what makes humanity valuable. And yet, in the doll's gentle care, in Yearn's protective sacrifice, in the hunter's willingness to face cosmic horror for the sake of others, we see glimmers of hope. Perhaps genuine connection requires not the abandonment of limitation, but the acceptance of vulnerability. Perhaps love is possible only between beings who can truly lose each other, truly hurt each other, truly need each other. The Great One's true purpose reveals itself not in their cosmic power, but in their cosmic grief. They show us what we might become if we pursue transcendence without wisdom, power without humility, consciousness without compassion. Their eternal hunt for surrogate children serves as both cautionary tale and tragic mirror, reflecting our own deepest fears about the price of growth and the possibility of genuine connection. The phrase, "every great one loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate," encapsulates the entire tragedy. It is both explanation and warning, both description and prescription. It tells us that cosmic consciousness comes at the cost of successful reproduction, that transcendence means sterility, that ultimate awareness means ultimate loneliness. Yet the yearning persists. Despite countless failures, despite millennia of attempting surrogate creation without producing viable offspring, despite the clear evidence that their strategies cannot succeed, the Great Ones continue their quest. This persistence reveals something profound about the nature of need and desire. That rational awareness of impossibility does not diminish emotional compulsion, that knowing something cannot be achieved does not prevent us from continuing to seek it. The player's role in this cosmic drama is both central and ambiguous. We are simultaneously the victims of cosmic manipulation, the agents of our own fate, the objects of cosmic desire, and the potential salvation or perpetuation of the Great Ones' tragic cycle. Every choice we make, which NPCs to save, which bosses to defeat, whether to consume the umbilical cords, whether to accept or refuse, Yharnam's mercy shapes our relationship to the cosmic quest for surrogate children. The game refuses to tell us which choice is correct because there may be no correct choice. Each ending represents a different interpretation of what it means to navigate a universe where cosmic beings pursue impossible goals through mortal means. Do we reject their influence entirely and return to mortal existence? Do we accept a role within their systems while maintaining our humanity? Do we embrace full transformation and become the very thing that has been pursuing us? These questions have no simple answers, and Bloodborne's genius lies in its refusal to provide them. Instead, it presents a universe where sympathetic beings cause terrible harm, where transcendence requires the destruction of what makes us valuable, where the pursuit of connection paradoxically ensures isolation. It forces us to confront the reality that good intentions, immense power, and cosmic awareness do not guarantee positive outcomes. The Great One's true purpose, then, is to serve as a mirror for our own existential struggles. They are beings who have achieved everything we might aspire to: immortality, power, transcendent awareness, freedom from physical limitation, and yet they suffer from the same fundamental loneliness that defines human existence. Their cosmic scale magnifies our human problems without solving them, demonstrating that transcendence of physical limitation does not equate to transcendence of emotional need. In studying the Great Ones' quest for surrogate children, we study our own quest for meaning, connection, and legacy. We see our own parental instincts and failures reflected in cosmic scale. We recognize our own desperation to create something that will outlast us. Our own yearning for relationships that can bridge the fundamental isolation of individual consciousness. The old blood that flows through Yharnam carries within it the accumulated grief of cosmic ages, the distilled essence of millennia of failed attempts at creating viable offspring. Every use of blood ministration, Every transformation into beast or kin, every nightmare realm and cosmic pregnancy, all of these represent new iterations of an ancient pattern, new variations on an eternal theme of loss and yearning. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the cosmic horror and tragic beauty of Bloodborne's universe. The Great One's quest continues, as does our own search for meaning and connection in a vast and often lonely universe. Like the hunters trapped in the dream, we are caught in cycles that we cannot fully escape, pursuing goals that may be fundamentally unachievable, yearning for connections that transcend the limitations of our individual existence. But perhaps there is meaning in the pursuit itself, even if the goal remains forever out of reach. Perhaps the Great One's tragic quest for surrogate children teaches us not to abandon the search for connection, but to value the connections we do achieve, however temporary and imperfect they may be. Perhaps the hunter's journey through Yharnam reminds us that growth, struggle, and even suffering have value in themselves, regardless of whether they lead to transcendence or transformation. May you find your worth in the waking world, fellow hunters. May you recognize the value of your mortal limitations and the connections they make possible. May you understand that true horror lies not in cosmic entities or eldritch abominations, but in the loneliness that even cosmic consciousness cannot escape. And may your dreams, unlike those of the hunters trapped in the moon presence's nursery, be gentle and brief, allowing you to wake each day to the simple, precious reality of immediate human existence, limited, temporary, vulnerable, but capable of the genuine connection and authentic love that even the Great Ones, with all their power and awareness, can never truly achieve. The hunt continues, the Great Ones yearn, and somewhere in the cosmic reaches beyond our perception, an infant Great One opens its eyes for the first time, beginning a journey that will eventually lead to the same loss, the same yearning, the same desperate quest for surrogate children that has defined cosmic existence since time immemorial. Fear the old blood. Seek pale blood to transcend the hunt. But remember that transcendence without connection is just another form of death, and that the most profound truth of Bloodborne lies not in its cosmic revelations but in its recognition of the fundamental loneliness that unites mortal and cosmic consciousness in shared tragedy. Thank you for joining me on this epic journey, fellow hunters. Until next time, may you find the connections that give your existence meaning. May you recognize the value in your very limitations, and may you understand that the most powerful beings in the universe are ultimately just as lonely, just as desperate for connection, and just as tragic as we are. Like and subscribe for more deep dives into gaming's greatest stories, and remember, the greatest horror is not what we might become, but what we might lose in becoming it.